seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag #PassTheBeat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag #PassTheBeat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice. And I want
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use as well and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'oreilles dans les jeunes actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'oreilles dans les jeunes actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
assiettes, dans tous les liquides que l'on boit. Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les jeunes actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit. Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les jeunes actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different lists, links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit. Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'orgueil dans les jeunes actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag Pass the Beat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our third now edition of our The Process series of workshops. This week, we have the wonderful Chris Lepp-Forest with us. Before I get into introducing Chris, I'll just mention that we do have the Pass the Beat challenges going on. You can find that on Instagram and YouTube and all this good stuff, as well as we've been updating our YouTube archives with lots of old Le Cypher sessions, so you can check out 4-hour videos of some old Le Cypher sessions. Now, getting into Chris. So, Chris grew up in Montreal, grew up in the Plateau, in fact. He is a drummer, sometimes a sound engineer. He is a DIY head for sure, a gear head, loves gear. Started playing drums at the age of 12 with his brother and some friends. Shout out to Serenity, who just liked the stream. He joined his high school music program in grade 11 and then continued with Cégep Saint-Laurent in music. That's where he met actually NSD and Jean Chilichil, who some people may know from Word Up Battles. He was also getting into beat making at the time. He went on to study music at UQAM and Concordia's jazz program, and it was there that he met Willis Pride, The Commission, many other wonderful artists. Eventually started coming to the Cypher, eventually started subbing on the drums, eventually became part of the regular rotation of Urban Science people. He's performed with the brass band, all this kind of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Chris Lepp-Forest! Whoa!
Hi, everyone on the internet.
Chris, how you doing?
Good, my man. Thank you for doing this.
No problem. Thank you for being here. So we were, of course, we make this all artificial because it's not like these are the first words we've exchanged. We've been talking for the last 20 minutes. So what are you drinking and eating? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, this is wonderful. I discovered this on a YouTube channel, and it's a classic cocktail known as...
Sorry, say that again.
Yes.
You discovered that where?
It was a YouTube channel.
What's that?
Are we plugging things? I mean, I mean, curious.
I was making a joke about like not knowing what YouTube is. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. It's just dumb. Anyway, sorry, I cut off your joke. This
is a I'm blanking on it now. Oh, that's terrible. This is gonna happen all the time. People get used to that.
Good.
Blank on it.
It's that good.
It's the Whiskey Fix. Yes, I made it. It's the Whiskey Fix. It's super simple.
Whiskey Fix.
It's just. I mean, it's got bourbon in it, but it's just a whiskey, lemon, and simple syrup. That's it.
Okay.
And crushed ice. It's wonderful.
That works. What kind of whiskey do you have in there?
I put some Bullet bourbon. Bullet.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
We'd like to make a shout out to our sponsor, Bullet Bourbon. No, that would be great though. If you want to,
that would be nice.
If you want to sponsor us, please give us a shout out, and we'll talk about that stuff. Chris obviously plays drums with Cypher. I'm not even sure what we're going to get into in the sense of like he does so many different things. But I guess we could start with, I'm just going to share this photo on the stream real quick. We can start with, and of course it doesn't work. Oh, that's just great. I love when I test everything except for one thing, and then there we go. There we go. It's on. It's on. Yes, it is on.
Those stereotypes weren't standing up, man. You gotta keep those stereotypes going, man.
I'm also good at ping pong and math. But yeah, so here's a little photo. Can you give us a little context on this photo?
Yes. That's NSD album number 2 in the making. That's like, what is that? Like mid. Oh, did we record that like in early 2010 or 2011?
Okay.
Oh man, this is yeah. So we did that. A small studio called man. I should have done my homework on this. Vincent is not going to be happy that I'm blanking. Madam Wood Studio.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like in the park industrial thing.
Yeah.
We did that. Sweet, great sound engineer. That was fun, man. And that was like, I think that's the first time I ever worked on a Moog.
Right.
In my life, like a real, or it's pronounced Moog. It's probably Moog. But yeah, we're working on the melody of a tune that I wrote.
Okay.
And yeah, Jean Chitty Chid laying down those synth lines.
Yeah. So you met these guys, or who did you meet, and when, and how did you become part of NSD? Tell me.
Yeah, so it's Cégep Saint-Laurent hookup. I met the guitar player and co-founder of the band, Raphaël Proulanglois. So we hung out a bit, I guess, just kept contact because like there was already another drummer in the band.
Right.
And then eventually he left the fold, and then that's it. He thought of me, and that's like 2008 around, like, yeah, maybe 7 or 8, like somewhere around there. Honestly, my dates are all a little hazy.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I joined the band, and yeah, we recorded that album. We'll see what happens with the third one, and at some point it'll come out. But yeah, like I think most projects, it's like somebody remembers, like, hey, let's call that guy.
Out of curiosity, so was this like the first kind of like hip hop project, live band hip hop project that you played in, or had you already been doing that?
No, definitely that was the first.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first thing playing hip hop live. Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Okay.
And they had it's actually pretty epic because like they like I know that I don't know if I should call anyways, Xavier Constant, aka Jean Chitty Chid. I know that like he's studied classical music, he's big into like big orchestrations, and Raphael, who's like been the musical director since day one, is like a really great arranger. So the band was actually like super big when I joined it. There was like 13 people. There's like a flautist who is, Ken Lo's wife. Caro.
Oh, Caro was in it. Okay, nice.
Yeah,
okay,
she was in there. Like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of like, people that have been around that have been in the band, and so it was huge, man. There was like 13 people, and it was like this big ensemble that we would drag around and play at different occasions. Right. The band like whittled down a little bit.
How many piece was it?
Yeah.
How many piece was it at its biggest?
At its biggest, it was 13. There was
my God. Okay. Yeah.
I think there was 1 or 2 backup singers. Caro was like singing and playing flute.
Right.
There's a trumpet player. There was a horn, saxophone player, trombone, obviously rhythm section. Can't remember if there was like a piano player per se, because like there's a couple of people that like play piano. I think it was more that. And 2 MCs, and they're good. Like raps a bit. Mm-hmm. There was another MC who was in the band, but who had left the band before I had joined.
Okay.
So there's like a huge rotating cast of people.
Right. It's kind of one of those projects in development, I suppose. I think sometimes people think that it's like this masterminded concept, and it's like, no, let's get this guy. Let's get, people sometimes don't realize it's un peu improvisé, it's the whole development of a band sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's like a lot of things in life where you're reacting, and there are people who do that, and I commend those people for being focused and driven and having an idea of where they're going. But I'm definitely one of those people who you just like things happen, or like somebody can't be in the project anymore, and then you're like reacting, and then you're either trying to replace them or maybe you don't replace them, or however. So there's not always like a master plan of like, I see myself in 5 years here.
Right. Although that is always a good question to ask yourself, where are you going to be? But anyway, so you started with NSD, who you met in Cégep, went on to, so there was something interesting that I remarked. You said that you started at UQAM and then didn't really enjoy it, and you ended up switching to Concordia, and you kind of more felt fell into your groove there. So tell me a little bit, what was the thinking? What happened? What happened there?
Well, I mean, like it first started out with the like certain elements of the program where there was like a few classes. Like I really clung to, obviously my drum teacher's great. One of the harmony teachers who like also taught choir. He was unbelievable, like educator. But like the rest, I was kind of like, there was a classical harmony class that like completely lost me, and I felt right. So I was just like hit or miss in general. There were some things that were great, but there were some things that I just felt like was kind of a waste of time and resources. So so I just tried to change the environment and had a good time at Concordia, and met some great people, and obviously there was some great educators at Concordia. But I'm aware that it's like that everywhere, where there's some things that are like amazing classes or amazing teachers, and then like in your afternoon you'll go to another thing and you're like, this is unbelievable, why are we doing this in higher education? So I know that it's like that. It's just finding a place where you fit a bit better, or just trying something else.
So did you feel that it was kind of like the way the program was built, or was it more about the teachers? I'm not asking to say like specific names of people or anything like that. I'm just kind of curious, like what drove you to switch? It's
like I think there was one or two, like when I think about it now, there's like, it was like half in terms of like the curriculum, that like there was some great stuff that I learned. There was like a teacher who was like a guy that scored for a lot of TV shows, and like his stuff was super on point. And it was like, like, I give you this song, come back with charts of everything for a band to play, and like it's got to be ready for next week, because it's a great vibe. And I think it was mainly like getting in, but every university has that like faculty vibe with like tenure teachers, and one of them was like this old school teacher that had been there for a while, and excuse me, she was the advisor for my classes, and it was just like it did not work, and there was like credits that she didn't allow me that I felt made no sense, because they were things that I had either done in college, and it was just like, it seemed so complicated, and I was just like, okay, maybe this place just isn't for me.
Right.
That was the main sort of thing that I was just like, okay, I'll try something else.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people who have switched around from different schools to different schools. So I'm always curious, like what people get from one that they don't get in the other, or vice versa, or whatever. And then at Concordia, that's where you met Willis Pride, where you met the guys from the commission. Willis Pride, I know, was a Concordia student, music student. Was the commission also Concordia music students, or what was the story with the commission?
Yes, it was. It was Myriam Bleu on guitar. Okay. Originally, I think Eric Gergis on upright bass.
Eric Gergis. I don't think so.
Either way, for some reason I felt like you know him.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. He was the original bass player, and then later on down the line, Sean Ryan replaced him.
Yes, the great Sean Ryan.
Yes, Shawnee boy, and then obviously Frank replaced Miriam. And we had this MC originally who was from the States, and
Rodney is not the original MC.
No, it was this other guy.
Interesting.
Dude, man, I should have done my homework on people's names.
It's okay. So then how did Rodney become part of the thing?
Dude, I think it was a Craigslist answer thing.
Seriously?
And he, auditioned.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's unbelievable too, because we both have a hookup with the Sun Youth organization.
Okay.
And he's the coordinator of basketball.
Yes.
And
he just won an award, actually. I believe he won a most valuable coach or greatest coach of the year or something like that. Yes.
I saw that for the previous year. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, he's awesome, man.
while I'm interrupting, Mark the Magnanimous just commented on the thread. He's requesting some Drake tunes, so we'll start playing some Drake in a little bit from Mark.
More hate. We need some more
at some point.
We need some more hating.
Mark, in fact, will be interviewed next week. He'll be talking all about his love for Drake. It really goes beyond. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah. So looking forward to that. But anyway, sorry. So you met. I totally was not paying attention. How did you meet Rodney? Say that again for me, just for me, because I'm useless.
I think it was either like some Craigslist or like it was like an online
that's right.
ad
Okay, yeah.
I think Miriam put out.
Okay.
And we tried out like 2 or 3 people, and obviously like Rodney's a great MC. He's got a great vibe, and then I love things like that. It's happened to me in another context. Like in another project where like it fits and it works musically, and then afterwards you learn that you already like almost should have known this person in life. Like I hung around Sun Youth as a teenager. I worked there for a couple of years, and like I played hockey for them. So I was like, how did I not meet you before in life? But anyways, just fun stories in life. Yeah,
that's sweet. Mark is starting to give us problems. Anyway, but that's sweet. That's.
But the thing is, there's no countdown, so we can't really do the Philly thing. There's like too many minutes left, so it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So actually, I also had a question about the saxophone player in that video that I just played a little bit of it. I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Severin.
Yes, Severin. Yes. So was he a Concordia student at the time, or what's the story with Severin?
He's I have not seen them in a very long time.
Me neither. That's why I'm asking.
Together. But he is at least at the time. I mean, they were.
You're being very diplomatic about it. I love it. I mean, he could be. I don't know, man, but could be.
I'm new to the streaming thing. I don't want to offend people. But like they're a couple. So
yes, okay.
I mean, that was the hookup, but he's a great saxophone player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I met him. I met him at some jams back in the day, like jazz jam sessions back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember him being like a computer guy. I forget exactly. Yeah. But anyway, just I remembered seeing him in these videos, but I had forgotten to ask you about it. So anyway, just was curious. So that's the connection there.
He's got the pinky ring in his like they're all engineers in his family.
Oh, so okay. I wasn't sure of the story. So anyway, Severin, shout out to Severin Smith. So yeah, that's where you met the commission. I'm going to pull up my notes here. And of course, Willis Pride as well, which kind of ties into how you kind of came upon the cipher and all this kind of business. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you found out about the cipher and why you started coming and et cetera, et cetera?
I think it's probably oh man, let's do it. Let's kiss ass all the way. You're astute social media. No, honestly.
Fuck you.
I'm crushing it. No, but like I think I saw it like pass by online, and I was obviously like super curious and into like the idea of a live hip hop jam session, and I was like at a point where I was really trying to put the positive energy that I had into like supporting community aspects in like cultural life, and like I wanted to, like, one of my ideas was like to put together, like for the right reason, to put together like a Facebook group of like a whole bunch of different artists in Montreal, so that we could like generate our own sort of fake traction online, so that we could all like, somebody puts a thing out and we all like it or whatever. Like I wanted to do something like that. And when this came along, I was just like, this is a beautiful event. And so I just like wanted to go and pay at the door all the time. And like, I wanted to jam, obviously, but I really, like, I remember, I think we talked about this before. Like, I remember like talking to your wife at the door, and she was like, yeah, I've seen your face a couple of times. And like Vincent, I can't remember what the thing that she told me was like, it's okay, you don't have to pay. And I was just like, no, take my money. This means a lot to me. And it means something to me that this event will survive. And I forced my money into the cash register because, I was talking about that with Willis today, that like things like the cipher don't pop up every year. They don't pop up, these things don't pop up all the time. They're rare occasions. So like to be able to have this keep going and to like see what it does to like a lot of young or like a lot of creative minds, how it positively affects them. I'm not like I didn't think about all that the day that I was going, but just
that
like
was
the guy
all
walks
the
in,
process.
got this whole thing.
Yeah.
No, I've tacked on little things after,
Sure.
4 or 5 years of this existing, but and like thinking about it sometimes, but that was like, that sort of encapsulates when I started going to Le Cypher, I was like, okay, this is a beautiful event. It has to survive. And we all have to like contribute a little bit, and which is like $5 is not much. And, just to make it survive and so that everybody can benefit.
Yeah. Well, back then it was $4 at the beginning. I wasn't paying myself. My wife wasn't paying herself. It was, and of course nobody was making money too, but that was a whole other thing. Not that we're making much money nowadays anyway. Well, we're definitely not making any money right now, but that's a whole other story, which we can get to
like
too.
I still find it crazy that live musicians can get a paycheck by showing up, jamming for a bit, hanging out with people. I get to hang out with great people, and I still get a kind of a paycheck out of that. So that amazes me.
Well, you mentioned part of your what's the word I'm looking for? The reason for coming was to support, and that these things don't come around all the time, or that's one way that you said it. I think one of the things is a question of longevity. Sometimes these things pop up, but they don't last more than a couple of weeks or a month or something like that, So it's thanks to people like you that started as fans and started coming and whatever that it took off, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, dude, it's all thanks to me.
Chris Lepp-Forest is singularly responsible.
Like, what amazes me is the amount of people that are the non-musician community that step up and show up and like make this event exist and survive. That's what also amazes me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said, it was my social media or whatever that drew you in or whatever. So I did a bunch of like radio interviews and stuff before the very first Cypher. And of course I was nervous, and I was like, man, is anybody gonna show up to this thing? Like, what the fuck is going to happen? But I remember the sign that everything had finally paid off was that the first person who walked in the door and paid cover, nobody in the band knew who this person was. So it wasn't like my friend or my whatever. It was just a random who heard from our promo. And I was like, it worked. It worked. Somehow it worked, So
we built it and they came.
I suppose. Yes. But it's been an ongoing building process. So, so thank you for that. So that was kind of your introduction to the world of the urban science world, I suppose. All kinds of interests.
Oh, we did mention though that
yes,
that I did the gig the first time I played with you. That I did a gig. I subbed François Chauvet, and then I totally blew you away. It was like that jam gig that François Chauvet organized.
Oh, Electric Jam.
Or maybe I jammed.
Electric Jam.
Yeah.
You were subbing on it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I replaced him like last minute, and then you were in the lineup, I think. Yeah. We did like the opening house band set.
Because I've only done that was so long ago, and also I only did it like a couple of times. You know what I mean? Like maybe literally maybe two or three
my
times.
Joke backfired because you didn't remember it, so it wasn't very memorable. Well, so I was really counting on that one.
I don't remember it being terrible or anything, because I remember playing with you.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember playing. Well, you know what? I must not have even known who you were that time, right? Like, that was our first time meeting.
I remember. Yeah.
So that's
I can't remember if it was before or after. I did one of those community workshop things.
Really? Shit, I'm sorry. I don't remember that either. Okay, so there's so many people.
That's like 6 years ago, I think.
But there's so many people who've gone through the community workshops, which is great, and I'm very happy that I had the possibility to be involved with that. But so many people have come to me since then, and been like, "Don't you remember I came to the workshops?" I'm like, oh fuck.
Just nod.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But anyway, I would love to get some proper workshops going with Urban Sciences. Well, we did one. Well, of course, you were at that one that we did at Concordia.
Yes.
like 2 years ago or something like that. But I would like to get that. It's really a question of getting organizationally, funding and all that. Although if anybody's interested in workshops, please, and you might have an insight into how to make that happen, please let us know. But yeah, so that's kind of, so what are you doing these days? Are you working right now? How does it work for you during confinement?
I just started working with Willis officially today. I got hired, so I'm gonna be doing that in the near future.
Okay.
But before that, been about a week or two that I haven't been doing much. Tried to be more motivated before and do record some stuff. Work on the pass the beat, try to stay inspired and practice. Is I think as much as anybody else is trying to do.
Yeah. When you said working with Willis, what did you mean by that?
Oh, it's like it's a whole like side gig thing where we install pool covers.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, that's fine. Look, I
know. That's like a whole thing that we can get into of like people. That's like some real shit of like, people got a side hustle to survive.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really, I think it's actually important to talk about that stuff because a lot of people just sort of assume that, yeah. And it doesn't work that way. Like you gotta pay your rent, you gotta pay whatever, food. I'm actually just playing a little pass the beat thing from Chris. This is not his installation of a pool cover, but it's a very weird pool cover. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think it actually is important to talk about that kind of stuff because we make some bold assumptions about how that works. I remember reading that. I think it was it might have been Wes Montgomery. It was one of those like legendary jazz guitarists who his whole life, like he was a taxi driver his entire life. He'd be like, oh, I'm taking, 3 months off to tour and play some gigs, and then I'm going back to taxi driving. Like he never stopped doing that, Yeah.
Well, I remember hearing something like that about Wes, where he would like work his 9 to 5 and then go. We had like this insane schedule where he would like work and then he would go to the studio and record, or depending on his situation throughout the year. But that he had like this insane schedule like that, and you just work and then play music.
Yeah. So Sean Ryan just liked the stream. Shout out to Sean Ryan.
See you, Sean.
While I'm playing this video, can you tell me a little bit about your process in terms of developing this or whatever? Because one of the things that I'll mention this first of all. Oh, hold on, what's going on? I hear another video playing.
I see what
Whoops,
you did there.
Sorry.
You mentioned process while we're talking.
Oh, that was not intentional. Man. Not at all intentional.
You're so good.
But
classic, Vincent. Classic.
But I meant really in the sense of because I feel as a drummer that you have a very strong kind of like hip hop sensibility when you play it, like I haven't heard you play like straight ahead jazz or anything, I've heard you play with Willis where you play more like funk and that kind of style. But like your sensibility of like, kind of like deconstructing beats or like putting in, cuts and all this kind of thing, is very hip hop. So where is that just something that you've always been listening to hip hop or like what's the background on that?
I think it's like something that, like I think I've been thinking about this week, like to sort of prepare for this almost, but I realized that I had been listening to hip hop for a lot longer than I thought. Like I thought where it was just like, I mean, I kind of started in high school, but there's a lot of things that naturally I gravitated towards, or that like, friends made me discover. That's how I discover most music. But, yeah, there's just like a lot of things that I backtracked and I was like, yeah, man, I was listening to like a lot of Kanye and like 50 Cent when I was in high school, like a lot of people. But like, there's like list to like a whole bunch of Usher and like Craig David when I was in high school. And it's all things that like I thought, like my recollection was I listened to more of like grunge or like punk rock or like my brother got me into like Primus and stuff like that. I thought that I'd listened to more of that, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I just like thought about it and I was kind of surprised at how I have listened to, I've listened to hip hop for a long time through, ever since like high school. Let's say that I've always like have been consistently listening to any form of hip hop at some point, has always followed. Like there was when I was in at the end of CJEP going into university, I was like big into Tribe and like Q-Tip and like a lot of East Coast stuff. So like there was just like different phases, but there was always things like big on what's this guy? It's Drake with a Y and a Q. Anyways, that guy, like huge influence.
Drake, Drake's great.
There are many Drake. Honestly, there are some Drake tracks that
I actually like a lot of Drake. So but I mean, nobody likes Drake as much as Mark likes Drake. But I do like Drake a little bit. We should
just spend the rest of this live stream saying that Mark enjoys Drake. Mark loves Drake.
Why do you say that as if it's not true? I mean, that is the truth. There's nothing to force. It's just everyone. I mean, I don't think there's very many people that don't know that Mark is like Drake's
it's
biggest
consensual.
fan. It is true. Yeah. Absolutely. So anyway, basically you listen to a bunch of hip hop. It's always been in there, and you're able to sort of channel those influences.
Yeah, man. I just want to shout out Mathieu Zabik that no one here knows.
Okay.
And no one watching this has an idea who this guy is. He's just my childhood friend that he's a go-getter in life. And at one point I wrote this in like the bio, so you'll remember what I'm talking about.
Okay.
He just like came to me when I was in college. He's like, yo man, I want to rap. It's like, but where is this coming from? And he's like, yeah, man, you're a musician. Make like just he came up. He's like, make me some beats. Just make some beats.
Oh yes, right. Yes.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I started making some beats, and then it sort of like blossomed into like we made our own little album. It was kind of like shout out to the guys in
the liquor store?
Pug Life. The guys in the liquor store, that it's like it has that vibe of like just.
I mean, Pug Life. They're not related to the liquor store at all. It's a separate group called Pug Life. The identity of whom we do not know.
I know a couple.
I got some
ins. I did a couple of shows. I got some ins. Not with Pug Life. I don't have the honor yet in my life, but so like similar vibe of like just not taking shit seriously, having fun and just trying to make hip hop for what it's worth. And that sort of like got the whole beat making thing for me going. And then I was like, hey man, I can put shit together, so that it just sort of kept going after that.
Yeah, so speaking of the liquor store, I randomly came upon a photo of you with them on stage. It looked like some kind of TED Talk or something. I wasn't really sure what the context was. So what was this? I guess
there was no music. There was no music involved. We just we went out on tour and just talked to people. About the band.
I see. Okay.
And they needed a guy who was not in the band to just stand. No, I'm kidding. They just got like this like a random chance through I think it was like Rimouski Jazz or something like that. Anyways, it was like this nice opportunity, when you're a young project to play for it's kind of like Rideau, where it's like the bookers for Maison La Culture get together, and this is I think it was Rosec, and so JD, Jean-Daniel Thibaudot-Desbiens, for the people who don't know JD by his JD short name, could not make it, and so they reached out, or JD asked me because we've known each other for a long time now. He reached out, and they asked me to do the crazy thing that most people wouldn't say yes to, which is, is that me? Is it my thing? Can you understand what I'm saying?
I can't. Sorry, I just messaged. I tried to be real subtle, and I messaged Chris saying that his mic sometimes gets scratchy. Anyway, whatever. It's something you can fix. Go for it. But finish your story. Sorry, you're saying that
it's my internet that sucks. But no, it's just that I think most musicians would think twice about going there and like doing a round trip to Gaspé in like 2.5 days, I think.
Oh God, yeah,
anyways,
it's so fucking far.
But like hanging out with those guys, that was not work. It was just hilarious most of the time. Listening to Felix complain about people is great.
The thing that bothers me though is that like I really don't like being in a situation where nobody drinks. And you just, it's like totally dry.
It's great.
You missed the sarcasm completely. Oh, did we just miss?
You got to work on that though. That was too quick.
Anyway. Yeah,
too deadpan.
They like their booze. They like their booze, especially Remy. Just saying. Just saying.
He knows it.
He knows it.
He knows it.
Yeah. So it's one of those peaches things, playing with different people and going all over the place.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah. I like they were just super. They were super like they were like touched that I did it because like it didn't pay very much. I was just like happy to help out the project and like it helped them got some gigs and stuff and like they're all great guys and so it was more of like a mutual thing where it's like, hey man, can you help me out, do a thing, like you ask somebody to renovate your house. It was more of a thing like that where it's like, hey man, can you help me out, and then like, well, it was just a great experience. It was fun. It's fun to like, it's actually the thing I loved is to parachute yourself into into a project that is fun happening and going somewhere and like fun to play their music and just like hang out like the tour life for 2 days, and then you just like show back up and you're like you get all the inside jokes in like 4 hours. It's great.
Yeah,
it's funny.
It's kind of crazy how the touring experience really changes the relationship that you have with other people. It's It's huge. Yeah, it is.
You're going to war, man. I mean, not literally, but
well, it's also interesting. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this actually is because I don't know anybody in urban science in the sense of like, we do a gig every Thursday, but I don't know anybody. I don't know what the heck people are into and whatever. So, this is an opportunity for me to kind of get to know people a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe you didn't like do your lineup great because you don't really want to know what me and Mark think. You don't. I don't think you want to go down that road. Let's keep it light. Let's talk about tour experience.
Oh my! Hold on, I need to share this on the stream. Oh no, wait, I can't because of copyright. I just checked what it is, but I can't play it because of copyright. It might get flagged, so I'm not gonna play it. And it's totally not me censoring Mark at all, but it is just a link, a video of him embracing Drake and saying how much he loves him. But I can't play it on the stream because of copyright reasons.
Wasn't sarcastic.
So not at all. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna get into
Mark for hogging the spotlight.
What was I going to talk about? I was going to ask you some of my sort of generic questions a little bit. Well, not generic questions, but I realized I haven't been going through my I kind of, as people who know me, I'd like to plan and whatever. And I've been doing a lot of research on different kind of like interview techniques and questions that people ask. And I didn't get into too many of these questions with other people. And I thought, like, why not? Why not get into that? So, we started talking a little bit about hip hop and all that. So why don't we talk about just who are your primary musical influences? You sent me some stuff, but let me know. Part of it is that you have to pretend that we didn't have this discussion before and that I don't know anything. Yes. So you got to tell the people.
Yes. Okay. Let's tell the people. I always find these questions hard.
Oh shit, Franco.
I always think about this. Okay.
Franco, no.
I won't be that corny. It's like, okay, I'll just go with like Stevie Wonder. Okay. Okay. So Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
I made a little list so I don't forget these things.
No, but do it as if forget about the list. Tell me like me to you having a talk,
Number two, honestly, I'll go Earth, Wind and Fire for real. That's honestly a band I listen to a lot. And
it's crazy how influenced I feel how influenced Willis's project is to Earth, Wind and Fire. There's a very similar thing going on.
Yeah. And just because it's super convenient for me right now, I'll do the Soulquarians, even though it's not like a band, but I've listened to a lot of those people. So I'll
absolutely.
Do that.
There's a great video of what's his name? Fucking
Questlove?
Yes, thank you, Questlove. Where he's talking about the whole like Soulquarians community and all the stuff that they used to do in terms of basically they used to do jam sessions, and that's how they all met all these different people. And I was like, what the fuck? How like it's so similar to like what we're doing, so it's cool to see that. But Franco asks my favorite question of all time, which is where do you get your ideas from?
Let's be honest. I steal that shit from other people, man. Let's be honest. Yeah,
fucking.
Not original. No, but I think, like, like everyone, you listen to great music and then you internalize that and then you sort of do your thing, which is like tidbits from everywhere that sort of go through your blender of a process, or of a blender of a creative process, I guess. Because I mean, anyone who says like I come up with this stuff out of thin air, you know, we're
bullshit.
Like, it sounds negative, but we're recycling. That's what we're doing. We're not. It's like physics.
That's not
you
negative.
Don't create. No, that's it. I mean, I don't see it as negative. It's just I guess it's more like physics in the sense that you don't create any new energy. It's just you're moving something from somewhere else, or you're transforming something. You know, it's not. I feel it's kind of like arrogant to say like, oh, I create these, because you know, even when you look up, every time I like get into whether it's like a specific drum groove or something like that, you always end up looking at more of a broader sort of or just like a cultural background, or sometimes it's even like socioeconomic or of what's happening in the times. And then you realize that there are other people who have influenced or who started that movement, but you peg it to one person because it's easier for a human to digest. Like, that guy invented that drum beat. And you're like, okay, it's easier for me to remember. But in the end, it was like a collective jam session thing or whatever. And then that idea emerged of all of those people, but he was the first guy to record it, you know? So that's why, like, I'm long parable to say that.
No, but I mean, I like what you said in terms of like shuffling, like the universe and shuffling the ideas or shuffling the energy around or whatever. It's I mean, I first of all, I should say I hate the question of where do you get your ideas from. However,
it comes from Franco, so we'll give him a pass.
Exactly. Oh no, it was Franco Proietti, and I'm pretty sure that he's joking as well because I think he was watching the previous live stream.
It's even better.
Fuck, what was I gonna say? I was just gonna say it's like language. Like, we're having a conversation right now. This is not a scripted conversation. Yeah. So like, where do we get our ideas from? It's not like I'm inventing new letters or new sounds or new words or something like that. Yeah. I'm rearranging, you know, what has come before. So I think there's also a just the reality that the more we know about Franco says that's why I asked it. the more things we know, the more we realize we don't know anything, that we didn't, there's nothing original that we've come up with or whatever. Exactly. Not to say that you can't be creative. You know, obviously you can be creative, and obviously you can be spontaneous, and obviously, you know, all of these things, but it's I think I get what you're saying in the sense of it's a bit arrogant to be like, hey, I'm a true original. And
it's as if you would say like, I created the cipher, you know. It's the same kind of I was talking about that inside joke earlier, and I was like, that's such a good, I love that.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it's just like I almost wrote myself like a Post-it on the side of my computer screen with like, you know, stop sounding so preachy and don't don't be arrogant like that, because I hate it when people do that. Like, I thought about this thing, and then they just like misremember the idea that there were like 6 people in the room with them. Right. And that like, because it's a fact that like, if you put humans together and you brainstorm, that some of the people, and I'm not saying all, I can't remember the numbers, but there are people in the group who will misremember having the idea that someone else came up with, and as a group they accepted the idea, and they'll like misremember and say like, I thought of that, and like, no, you didn't, but yeah. So.
Well, you know, the history of human civilization and advancement is taking previous ideas and refining or reworking or remixing or whatever, you know. So that's it is not a negative thing to say that you got the idea from somewhere else. Hell, speaking of creating the cipher, I got the idea from the lesson in New York, you know. There you go. It's pretty clear. Okay, so we went into that a little bit. So we talked a little bit. I really got to figure out how I'm going to do. I don't know. I'm learning. See, just I'm learning too. I've been doing research. I've been seeing how do people do interviews, all this kind of thing. I maybe need to print things out so I don't have to like switch tabs in my windows and whatever. But whatever. This new world.
Oh, we can see you squinting.
That's just because I'm fucking blind. But has nothing to do with this. The text is huge. I just can't see shit.
Nice.
So we talked about some of your primary or earlier influences. Is there anybody that you're listening to today that you really like? Like I mean, obviously old people that you're listening to, but are there artists from today that you're checking out?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, like I feel like I thought about this, and especially like I remember you had a thing of like people that are like that other people have been sleeping on, or like these sort of lesser known artists. I have a hard time with those because I'm not great at like digging. But like Yusef Days and
nice.
The like it was, I guess the collaboration with Kamal Williams is a bit older stuff, but that I haven't had a chance yet to check out the. I got time, whatever. But I haven't checked out the Tom Misch collaboration with Yusef Days. That just the idea sounds epic, so I got to check that out.
I haven't checked it out either, but people have been telling me it's great.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've been reading about it. I can't hear about it because I don't talk to anybody. Who else? Like actual like I guess like Thundercat obviously, and
well, it's not obvious. I really don't think I don't think anything is obvious, because people obviously so and so, and you're like, really? I didn't know that you're into blah blah.
Yeah.
Everyone has different stuff, so yeah. Have you seen them perform live?
I have not had the chance. Haven't had the chance.
I saw Katie and my wife Katie and I went to Burlington, I want to say, to see him perform, and it was I forget the name of the venue, but it's a great venue because it's just a big room. It's like that's all you need. You just need a big room. You don't need any fancy shit. Anyway, went to see Thundercat. It was a great show. Did all his hits and whatever, but I was like, okay, well, I'm the kind of guy, and I'm sure you can figure this out, but anytime I see anything or watch a show, part of me is also analyzing and taking notes and whatever, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so watching this show, I was like, holy shit, here's this guy that is a jazz bassist and has figured out how to get to people to watch a 2-hour show of bass solos.
I know, it's amazing.
He's figured out how to do it, I mean, it's not just bass solos and whatever, but like so the one I would say musically, the one thing that bothered me, I mean, I love his music. I love his songwriting. I think his singing has really come a long way since the early days. Of course, his bass playing is amazing. But what I didn't like was that every song had like the same structure. So what I mean by that is it's like they would play the melody and then they would take solos and then they'd play the melody again and the tune. And it's like, it's like a jazz kind of approach, And it's like, well, but you're not really writing jazz songs. These are more like pop songs if you want to put it in a category. And so the solo should be kind of built into the song somehow, like structurally. It's like we do this, then we come back to the bridge or that at least the pacing of the show should be like more medley oriented or something, of course with place to stretch, but not just like head solos, head solos, head. I really felt that was a bit lazy, but especially when we're talking about guys of that caliber, it's like, come on, man, Thundercat, you can come up with something. You're such a fucking genius. You can come up with something, So anyway, sorry, I went on a random rant there.
That's okay. I mean, I think it was a similar vibe. I remember talking to Franco O'Sullivan about he went to see. It was a couple of years ago at the Main Line. I think it was close by, and it was more of that. It was just like he was telling me how it was just like getting your mind blown by crazy musicians.
Sure,
but I got I sort of pieced that it doesn't surprise me that was the approach of like a jazz thing and just like go go with it.
Yeah,
a jazz mindset, I should say.
Yeah, it's kind of a jazz approach to pop music or whatever. But anyway, so Thundercat, are there any other artists from today that you're particularly checking out?
There's probably more, man, but like some I was checking out like Chance the Rapper. Checked out recently, like BJ the Chicago Kid.
Oh yeah.
I was like trying to get in, like just to get like just better school than like. I think my main problem is that I don't like quickly accept new music. So
Sure.
like stuff that comes out.
Yeah.
I don't like I always like admire people who are able to like grasp onto like new music right away and just enjoy it now. I'm always like I always find myself like enjoying things that like are, you know, like older in the sense of like 3, 4, 5 years or something, just because I don't know, it's probably inherent in my personality where it's like safer. I know how people have reacted and I can choose then like, for what it's worth. You know?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's like that, like it's super deep of like some self-conscious thing, but yeah, just trying to get into like newer MCs,
right?
Or
there is like a guilty, you know, like in the sense. Okay, well, I think there's a couple of things going on here. One is that if there's an artist comes out and you like, first of all, you might be afraid to tell everyone about it because you don't know how everyone else thinks about it. And if it let's say you did, you know, you're checking out music and you discover this great song by an artist that's about like going to like a used clothing store and you're like, wow, this sounds amazing, and then that's
I think I know what it is.
And then that's the year that artist like defeats you know, Kendrick and whatever for best rap song, you know, and becomes widely hated and all this kind of thing. But you're like, but I kind of like that song, but I didn't even think of it as rap. I just like a pop song or whatever, you know. So, but you know, to be totally honest, like Macklemore is actually an example for me. Like there's some Macklemore that I'm like, hey, this is kind of catchy and fun and whatever. I mean, I don't consider it like serious. I wouldn't even say I consider it hip hop for the most part. I haven't even listened to any of the albums. I just listen to singles and whatever. But I admit there's some of his music that I'm like, hey, this is fun. I'm into this. This is a summer jam, you know, whatever, you know. But maybe I think our viewer count is dropping rapidly right now. I think I shouldn't have said.
Put some Drake back on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I understand that kind of fear of like revealing an opinion, and then it, you know, I think these days, especially with the internet and shit, you know, you never know what you're afraid of your visibility to your peers, you know.
You never know who's going to have a non-consensual relationship.
Oh,
so you gotta,
well, there's that too, you know.
You gotta place your.
Gotta wait a little while. Do a background check on the artist, you know. But the other thing I think is just the very simple thing of like, you know, it ties back into actually what we're talking about, creativity and like not coming up with anything new or all that kind of thing, in the sense that like when you were young, everything was brand new. Everything was amazing. You'd never heard anything before. So the first time that you heard somebody, you know, sing on a funk beat or whatever, you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And odds are, you know, I mean, this is the thing. Any music that comes out at any time has to compete with every single piece of music that has ever existed. Yeah. You know, so if you're playing funk, you're competing against James Brown. That's one of your competitors. You know, that is one of your competitors. You know, so you know, it's easier to enjoy music as a kid because everything is new and everything is fresh, and also everything has been curated, right? So there may have been other artists that came out with music the same year as I don't know, like whatever, some classic album, but like, who gives a shit? The only album that matters is Intervisions or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's the only one that matters now, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of those things. I'm going off on rants a lot. I'm sorry. You gotta talk more. This is not about me, man. I'm switching the focus to you.
I'm open, man. I'm open. This is an exchange between Le Cypher people. That's the whole point.
Do you have any like incontournable in terms of albums specifically or anything like that?
I think, you know, probably my like ghetto, like if we're going for like island, like you're stuck on an island. Right. Your 5 like albums Voodoo for sure, man.
Oh, really? Like, okay, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
This comes out of nowhere, but because like I have this thing where I like latch on to an artist for like one album, and then they maybe make other albums that are great, but for some reason I just like go off and don't follow. But I really loved the Continuum album by John Mayer.
Oh,
just like all around amazing album. Yes, Steve Jordan. If there are drummers who, if Alexis Gagnon is watching right now and he doesn't know who Steve Jordan is, you gotta check that shit out, son. Do your homework.
Okay.
Just write Steve Jordan on the screen. Anyways, he's just just like amazing session player that has played with a whole bunch of people. Super talented. And yeah, so that's like a great album. What else? Like, I don't know, maybe one of the Tribe albums, like Low End Theory, or Midnight Marauders. One of those two. Those always work.
Yeah, I've been doing that, like your X number of albums that influence you or whatever challenge, and I haven't put any tribe on it yet because I'm like, all of them. Like, I think like every single one. I gotta go back and listen, but like I think I like every single one. Mark's
shade there.
What's going on here? I'm worried about what is Mark posting. Here.
Let me add to this discussion. I'm gonna bump everything down, and the top of the list will be songs in the key of life.
Oh, right.
That's
absolutely
probably
sure.
And till the day that it's Costanza. Nice. That's non-copyright.
Hold on, I gotta put this on the stream. But this is the thing that Mark the Magnificent just put this on the stream. So anyway, sorry. So you were saying?
Oh no, I'm sharing with people that I made the. Man, I'm gonna regret this for the rest of my life. I didn't go see the Montreal show where he played that album. Like he did this like 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't go see that. I was just like strapped for cash, and I was like, whatever, I'll see him. I don't know what was going through my mind, but I missed that.
You can't see everything.
It's too bad.
But,
yeah. But like, honestly, I realized afterwards, like, that's probably one of my most favorite albums.
Mm-hmm.
Love Stevie. Why didn't I just put it on a credit card and go? I don't know. Decisions sometimes. It doesn't matter. I haven't listened to like specifically enough Earth, Wind & Fire albums to like put one down, but I'll go for like, I have a greatest hits vinyl that I run all the time at home that me and
we're all going to get fucked.
I don't know.
Oh, something is weird with your video feed.
Oh, it's probably.
No, I think it is an OBS problem. Okay. But think about that. I'm going to try to diagnose this issue live, which might be a big disaster. But think about, so what are your worst, can you tell me what you think your worst, what are some of I'll put it, okay, let's not talk about other people. Let's talk about best gig and worst gig. So best gig and worst gig. Let's talk about that.
Okay, sweet. Best gig, I think I'll have to go with when we played with NSD at Francophonie.
Nice.
That was, I think it was right before or right after the album, like the picture that you showed in the beginning. So it's like maybe 2011 or 2012. It was just an epic show. It was like the first time in my life where I played for what felt like a sea of human beings, where you looked out and it was in... it was the stage that's like behind the Quartier Général that faces St. Catherine.
Okay.
So like that whole parking lot filled with people was just like an amazing feeling, and just went. It's like the best gig, but that I barely remember because it went by so fast.
Right.
But like thinking about the whole thing was awesome, and just how it went. It was just like the powerful feeling of like. Things that like when you get used to that, you like try to think back of like, what's that feeling of like the first time I ever witnessed, what felt like 5,000 people. And I would go for, I guess, worst gig or like the weirdest gig was, I didn't really mention in my bio with my cover band. Anyways, I was in a cover band like everybody else, like most struggling musicians for a couple of years. And our rhythm section got hired. I can't remember who met or how this worked out. If it was like an online thing, she contracted us to play for her. And like, these people that like bill it as a really big thing. And it just ended up being for 4 people at what was the House of Reggae on Saint Denis.
Oh, wow.
And the sound was weird. There was 4 people. And the singer was so confusing. Like we had to like learn 30 songs for a couple of sets, and then it got down after the first practice, it went down to 25, and she'd make like these weird cues, and she had like these never-ending style indications on the charts of like neo soul funk, hip hop, jazz, disco funk, and you're like, what is happening in your brain? So all of that mashed into a blender gave me one of the weirdest gigs. I might have had weirder gigs than that, or like less enjoyable, but that was probably.
I'm not gonna get into too many details on this, but is this an artist from here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
it's a local singer. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
You know what? But, I can't. I'm not gonna ask you more details. I'll ask you offline more details because I think I know.
Yeah, we can. If you want, we can get into that. I mean, I don't want to name names, but it was Mark the Magnanimous' solo singing career. But just saying.
Yeah, I don't want to name names either, but it was Mark. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's, I want to get into shit with this live stream, but at the same time, I don't want to get us into shit. You know what I mean? But
you don't want to
if there was a way,
stir up some stories.
Yeah, if there was a way to like. To anonymously do like voice change anonymously, like I would so do it. Just talking shit about people. I mean, I would love people to talk shit about me. I'm sure I've done stuff that people have remembered that are like, oh, fucking Vincent, he did this and da, da, da.
Well, I mean, I think you reach, and that's the thing why like comedian podcasts work out well. I think that's what they do in the end. It's just like a different, I guess maybe it's like a different terrain where they have different. Maybe it's a different reality in the sense that they don't gig together like on the stage at the same time. But, a lot of people talk shit about other people at their podcasts. So I feel like it kind of is that. It's just the terrain of like the being in the dangerous zone of like, who are you talking about and to what extent you're revealing about that person or who that person is.
Sure. But I think also in the case of comedy, a friend of mine once put it this way. He said, like, can you come up with a joke that does not cause injury to anyone? Like aside from like a knock puns and all that kind of shit, you know what I mean? And it's really hard because like the essence, I think, of a lot of not every piece of comedy, but like a lot of comedy is laughing at the expense of someone, right? Laughing at someone, or something or some whatever. And so I think the reason why that might work more with comedian podcasts is because if you're a comedian, you better be able to take it.
You're ready.
You better be able to take it. So, that's it. But, the musician thing, it's like we got, we're all hiring each other. So we got to be nice to each other. Otherwise, we're never going to get hired again kind of thing,
so you're a great guy, Vincent. I just want to throw that out there. Super cool dude.
Right.
What can I say? Created Le Cypher. Awesome guy. Mark, no love for that guy.
No,
I don't know why
Mark.
I'm pointing at my phone as if he saw my phone. But...
Boo, Mark, boo. Anyway, okay, let me get to some more of these questions. Actually, what are you working on right now? Because I know you had something that you were working on that is not ready yet, but we'll be seeing the day soon.
Yes. If Paolo's still watching, he knows what it is. It's this really cool thing that Robert Sput Seawright, known as the Snarky Puppy drummer.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he drums for Drake.
Or
I'm
like
pretty
Snoop's
sure.
Drummer.
No, he drums. He drums for Drake.
Yeah, he played with Drake probably. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
everybody
pretty
plays
sure.
with Drake.
Yeah,
except for you and me, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, he's I did not know this up until like last year or until like the I don't know if you've seen these Vic Firth and like these like drummer videos that he has been like producing and arranging for. I didn't know that he's a like wicked multi-instrumentalist and he's like super dope piano player.
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
He's heavy.
Okay. Yeah,
he's heavy, man. He's heavy. And so like this is only why I assume he has played all the parts. So he did like this arrangement of actual proof, and I assume that he plays all the parts in it, and it's super funky.
One man band.
So through this website called Usic Play, I believe.
Okay.
The link is in my description. No, I'm kidding.
Like and subscribe.
So no, actually, their concept is super cool. I saw like a part of side note. I saw like a part of the live stream that Sput did, and it's like a thing for either like gospel musicians, but like mainly it's like a African American sort of company that their goal is just to like educate musicians and like get more information out there, and they do like masterclasses and stuff. So I was like, it was like a nice, it seemed like a nice project. But so they partnered with him, and they sort of got the word out, and that is, he posted like online. They did like a competition where they offered like a small sum of money for a drummer that would submit their rendition of actual proof, and then playing it on drums, making little videos and stuff. And I just, like a lot of things, I just started it and never made something that was that I found good enough. So then the deadline went by, and this has been like already a month ago, and I'm still like, it's not good enough yet. I gotta. And then I keep telling myself, well, then now that I feel like someone knows that I've been working on this, it's got to be better, because then you tell yourself, like, what have you been working on this whole time to make it amazing? Why is it not unbelievable?
You spent all this time on this? Yeah.
And that's why it doesn't exist yet. So I'm kind of working on that, and got a new little video that we're working on with Willis.
Nice.
That, will be seeing the light of day in the near future, hopefully. And little things here and there, little pet projects that I haven't gotten to yet.
So with Willis, your role it goes beyond just being a drummer. Can you talk a little bit about what you do in Willis's band, like aside from playing drums?
Yes. Can I just mention up front that in the band we have a cult like devotion to Mark the Magnanimous. I don't know if you know him.
I've heard of him. Okay. I've heard of him. Yeah.
So I kind of, with Willis's project, I consciously made this decision of making myself indispensable. I sort of had this realization of like, if you join a band or a project or something, I don't want to, maybe it's like out of a fear of like being replaced, but I just like, I don't want, you don't want to like not get kicked out, but just like, I was like, you just do things for the band to get somewhere. And then, obviously recording is always, it's, I mean like funding for a lot of things is always a hurdle. So this, you do a lot of different tasks for the Cypher. Anybody listening does multitasks on many levels in terms of like platforms or things. So that's how I got into it originally, with like a small, small background in terms of like plugging a microphone directly into a computer, and it sounds terrible just making rap videos with my buddy. But that and like just a passion for it. I just liked, I've always enjoyed being in the studio and asking. I guess it came from me, it came from a place where I was curious about like gear and how, and like shaping sounds. I would ask I would always talk to guitar players and ask them like what their pedals did and what, what that pedal was, what does it sound like and why does it do that and stuff like that. So I'd always ask people stuff, and sound engineers the same thing, and like just always peering over their shoulder and like asking them what they're doing. And if that's possible, it depends on who. If you're listening right now, there might be one person listening. Don't stay humble, people. But like, know who you're talking to. Don't just like walk up to a sound engineer that you don't know. Hey, man, can you no? Just wait a second, get a sense for who that person is, and then if it works, ask them all the questions you want. But I would just do that. Just ask questions. Watch people. Eventually, it turned into like. Now I do like everyone, and like, oh, yeah, I'm interested by this thing, and I'll watch like YouTube mix videos and like miking techniques and stuff like that. I'll geek out on that kind of stuff. But yeah, it came out of necessity of like, it costs a lot of money. I mean, if I need to say this, recording costs a lot of money. Producing music costs. I read, I've been listening like very recently, a couple of days ago, listening to like some old Steely Dan albums. And I read that, I could be misquoting them, that like one song, I think it was the drums of that song, that they tried something and they re-recorded it a whole bunch of times, and it cost like $150,000 in the 70s just to record that one song. And you're like, that people don't realize that sometimes. So this is why all musicians and artists nowadays, we're all like scrambling to like make little things in our basements because nobody has any money to do anything. I mean, I don't want to get in and like complaining. I don't want to make people feel bad for not paying for music. It's just, this is where we're at. It's a realization that, I mean, I'm inherently like that. I like crafting little things and like, being. But
this is why the whole home studio thing has like really blown up. I think it's just like trying to save money, like that studio time is fucking expensive, I just a random question to put in context, that microphone in front of you, how much does that microphone cost?
It's like $500, let's say.
Yeah.
$500, $600.
That's one microphone. One microphone is $500. And we're not talking about,
sound's not coming out of this. This is really just for the look, by the way. Just honestly. But that's the idea. That's the idea. And like, most studios, it's like some people don't realize that they're singing into like an $8,000 microphone, and not that it changes something. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes.
Like that's a whole.
If you sing off pitch into an $8,000 microphone, it's still off pitch.
It still sucks. But you can close your eyes and listen to a microphone that's worth $150, and the person playing in front of it is great. Like that's another thing we could touch on in terms of like what's important for like recording music. The most important thing is the thing being recorded, whatever, if it's a human or like the musical instrument you're recording, that's the most important thing. Then you can start talking about what you're recording it with, or like picking up the source. So yeah, I mean, it can be a super cheap microphone, but coming back to what we're talking about, gear is expensive. Like gear costs a lot. At least now I consider ourselves like still very lucky, because I am able to afford like a small functional quote studio that like even like 20 years ago, this was impossible to think of.
Yeah.
Especially in a digital sense, like to be able to put this into a computer and then afterwards come back and do whatever you want with it and manipulate it in any way. That was like I watched this video. I think his name is Bob Power. I could be misquoting his name. This like great mix artist who actually worked. You should check this guy out. He worked with Tribe. He worked on Voodoo. He did like all of these. He started like in the late '80s in New York. I'm blanking on the hip hop collective that he worked with. They're like cited as like influences to some people. And so he worked like with like a lot of like recognizable and amazing artists in like the 90s in New York. And they were talking about the process of like Q-Tip going back and forth with MPCs and like programming stuff, and just like how D'Angelo showed up with like whole songs programmed on his keyboard in the workstation. Yeah. And like, sometimes Willis will do that type of thing, but like even just like transferring stuff, it's not like show up with a USB key. It's like, you gotta like record all the stems and like figure out, in terms of like formats of, going from digital to analog, and just like there's so many things that people take for granted now. I'm not saying like I don't want to be one of those people who's like, yeah, you guys have it really easy now. It's just it was a lot of legwork of like setting up and figure and just like the interface in general of especially like beat making was, sometimes more in certain aspects, it was more complex to like communicate with a computer in order to record. So just like the fact that digital recording technology was like embryonic at that point, it was, it's nice to like see how people worked, and that we have it easy in a lot of fronts, like technology and like the accessible, like how gear is accessible now. It's that there's like, if you want, we can get into the fact that like I bought some preamps, and that now there's they offer small companies will source the exact same parts as like high end gear, and they send it to you in a package, and you assemble it and you solder it together, and it's a quarter of the price. So things like that did not exist 20 years ago. There's like a whole bunch of things that are amazing for building a small recording studio.
I feel like there's a lot of great things that you touched on there. One I really want to mettre mon appui dessus, like I want to reinforce, is you're saying that, like, you know, at the end of the day, the most important thing is what you're actually recording, like in the sense that the musicians got to be together. You got to rehearse. If you're starting to rehearse in the studio, man, you are spending crazy amounts of money, total waste, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then just, you know, in terms of the way you kind of have developed this over time, it's just like learning little bits and pieces at a time. Go and check out YouTube videos. I mean, I feel like these days, especially, there's no excuse. There's so many resources out there. You can easily go and learn this stuff. I mean, Danny Dwayne is on the stream. I can't even see what's going on here.
Danny.
Okay.
I have my phone. It's probably like 5 minutes late, but
I see.
Yeah, there's options. There's information everywhere.
There's information, you know, so go check it out, learn this stuff, you know, and like, you know, if you get like a used laptop and like a very simple audio interface, like that's not a lot of money, you know, to get a basic startup, you know, kind of setup going, you know. And you go with that, and you use some free software for tracking, and you know, you just start somewhere. You know,
and even like, you know, that's another thing of like, it's hard now because we don't know like if more people are going to watch it later, if people wanted to talk about like recording, but like lately I've been into like I watched a couple of recording master classes, and especially like for drummers, I don't want to say that I feel like a lot of people neglect this, but I definitely did. And I think that a lot of young drummers that sort of discover the recording profession, is that developing how to pick up the drums as an ensemble with like one mic and then two mic, and then slowly bringing in more mics instead of just being like, okay, I have all these elements. I will put a close mic in front of everything and then I'll blend it together. But there are many things that you miss in terms of like phase cancellation that screws up your EQ, and then you start getting into like processing things, and then you're always like, it's always a fight between one thing and another. And then I do this on the regular, where I just end up mixing something and I waste an hour of my life because I did something that I have to redo afterwards because it just sounds bad, or it sounds weird, or there's just it's not giving you all of what you can get out of an instrument. So yeah, I was watching these master classes of like, yeah, man, explore the room, the instrument, and then pick it up with one mic. And like the guy was working with SM57s, you know. So you can do a lot of great stuff with inexpensive gear. And you know, I mean, there's like, I didn't even mention earlier, like Lewis Cole for me is a really good example, and like Vulpec, because they always have like simple mic setups, and you're always I mean, like, it's a distinct sound, but it's always satisfying to listen to their sound.
Absolutely.
It's something that they've worked on, and not to say that that is like that their amount of work is tangible, like when you listen to it. It's just that like it's a thing. They created a thing, and
well, I think what you said about what you said about what the most important thing is what you're actually playing. There's the perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are monsters, you know. What they're actually playing is so great that if it's recorded on a shitty, well, not that an SM57 is shitty, but you know what I mean, like a very simple, basic, general purpose microphone, it sounds badass.
Oh,
so
man,
you know,
dude, I always try to come back to the fact that Lewis Cole plays with the shittiest cymbals. Like if you didn't notice, like look at most of the cymbals that he uses, they are Sabian B8s. That you give that stuff to like kids when they're starting out. They're like, I didn't know that. Cymbals, okay, but he makes it work so well. You're just like, hey man, that's cool. It sounds like a drum and bass thing, and you're like, he just uses them at the right spot,
right?
And he makes them, and whether it's out of necessity or an actual choice, it just works out. You know, sometimes it's just like maybe he didn't think it through. Like, you know, sometimes other people will sit back and analyze it. I do that sometimes.
Sure.
And if you would talk to him right now, he'd be just like, yeah, that's the symbol I had over there, and I didn't think about it. We're like, okay, cool. That's awesome too. But
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case in his scenario, because I remember when they before they were knower, when they were just I think they just were called Lewis Cole and Genevieve Vertati, something like that. I remember reaching out to them and asking them a couple of questions about different things. And one was like, how do they, because, you know, their videos all had these crazy projections and those, and I remember asking them about that. I forget what it was, but I think at some point it was like, oh, it's like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's what I had. It's like, oh, that was done in MS Paint. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how, you know?
Yeah,
but it's like, well, I just spent the time and figured it out, you know?
Yeah, that makes me think of something that, you know, if I can impart this piece of wisdom and on like that I sometimes forget, is that it's often better to like have less things, and in this case, like restraint and being stuck with something. You're often much more creative than having whatever you want or need.
Yes.
Then, you know,
I agree completely.
You often make more interesting things than just being like, sometimes I get into that sort of feedback loop of like, oh, if I just had that piece of gear, it would be better or easier in some way. And then, you know, sometimes you just get it and you're like, yeah, it's not that inspiring finally.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if you're stuck and you don't have a lot of things, then you become creative, you become nifty, and you're like, you know, you get into it. And I mean, you know, sometimes you're overcompensating, but it can be inspiring, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, there's something that we touched on with both Freddie and David with the previous live streams was the idea that total freedom is not necessarily a good thing. That having limitations are awesome. You know, being forced to work with what you've got, you know, and I definitely agree with it. I mean, what's the drummer? Is it the drummer from Def Leppard that has one arm? I can't quite remember.
Yes.
But you know, I mean, you know, somebody like that, or tons of other people where it's not even about a physical constraint or whatever. It could just be about having like a big, like if he has those beginner cymbals, right? You know, it's like, oh my god, how's he gonna make anything out of that? All he has is SM57s and beginner cymbals. Well, he fucking made something out of that. You know, he really made something out of it. You know,
exactly.
So yeah, not the tool. I mean, tools help. I'm not trying to say tools don't help, but at the end of the day, much more important than any tools is this up here. Sound. This is the fun, but yeah, that concept that you're trying to get out, you know.
Sound.
Yeah,
exactly. Making it happen, whatever it is.
Yeah, so kind of
good.
Sort of related to that subject, or almost the opposite in a way, is what do you find yourself spending money on or saving money for, or both?
Yes, nice. I've been going to, I mean, lately I'm still into like studio stuff, because once you're into that, it's a vortex,
right?
Because it's a chain that there's always a missing link. So my next thing is like, because I've been running on the same laptop since 2012. So it's
right.
Not because of time. It's just in terms of like, in terms of recording necessities, I've gone beyond the limit of this thing. So I want to get myself like a tower that's more powerful, and then eventually be like replacing the audio interface. That's something that I thought about. If you want to get more into like a bit more nitty gritty in terms of like gear, I think that's. I think it's sometimes something that's pertinent to talk about, because people feel maybe lost or scared of like, do you need an audio interface or what you do and stuff like that. So just in terms of like converting sound into digital, that is a whole sort of it's a whole realm. But I'd like to replace my audio interface eventually. And then for drums, I'm doing great, man. I'm very, very thankful I have many drums. I'm gonna get myself more cymbals. Shout out, dude! I haven't done it.
Yes,
doing my job.
Dream Cymbals.
Link in my bio. Dream Cymbals. Check that shit out. Beautiful company, great people, and most of all, amazing cymbals that I stand firmly behind.
Yes, thank you.
Look at how nice that is.
There we
Look
go.
at how nice that is.
Look at that beautiful cymbal.
It's very dark. That's the concept. That's way nice. This is way nicer. This is way nicer than before. So you could not see my face. Yeah, so those are my next gear. I mean, there's always like things that I'll probably never get to, of like, you know, maybe getting like a GoPro or like some sort of small camera to like film myself to produce more videos on my own time. But you know, those are just things that are in the back that I'll probably never get to. Well,
I do suggest the cymbals, not the cymbals, the cameras.
The one that you got for
Urban Science. Yes. Yeah, those are Zoom Zoom Q2Ns. Zoom, the company that makes all that audio recording stuff.
Frank got one.
Oh yeah, Franco got one. Okay, nice. But they're extremely inexpensive. They're $150 US each. like
Oh, that's very
insanely.
reasonable.
Yeah. Now it's not the most incredible high-end camera or whatever, but the sound is really good and it works pretty well in low light environments, which we're often performing in. So it's a nice camera to have. I want to make a little shout out real quick to Franco Proietti. He just donated $10 to the stream. Thank you very much, Franco, for that. Yeah, very, very, very appreciated. He donated last week as well, so that is appreciated
Mark
very much.
Magnanimous is correcting you. It's Q2N.
What did I say?
Much,
Q4?
Mark.
Did I say Q4? Yeah, I'm thinking H4N and Q2N. Yeah, but I mean, Mark really doesn't know what he's talking about, so don't really trust.
H1N1? Is that what you said?
It's it's a little H.
We see you, Anthony Pajot, by the way. We see that.
One of these. But yes, that's true. There is a new 4K version of the Q2N. I like it. I think it's very good for the price. Like it's insanely good for the price, But yeah, so that's interesting.
Definitely.
I'm currently looking at like some form of computer upgrade because every time I run this streaming software, it just grinds my computer down to a halt. So I'm hoping like some simple little upgrade might be possible to make this a little less deadly. But that's interesting. I'm gonna. Actually, so one of the things I ask everyone to do is to kind of prepare a little something in a technical point of view. And I was wondering if you have a little something to share with us in that regard.
Sure, man. Sure. Oh, sweet. Anthony's watching.
Yeah, he's like, shit, a drummer's watching.
I think this is kind of funny at the same time because I'm like the least choppiest of all the drummers in the sort of. Even like the whole realm, I consider myself
in the world of drummers, in all drummers who have ever existed.
Maybe not all, but I've been sort of finding my way in the world of like, I mean, I guess everybody calls it gospel chops now, but I see it as linear playing.
Sure, yeah,
which
absolutely.
is like an older, it's an older thing from, it's like more of a jazz thing from the like, I can't really peg it to an era. There's a book that to me sort of places it in the 70s.
Can you give a little, for those who don't know what that means, can you give a little explanation?
So basically linear playing is just the idea that you're not doing unison hits. So you're not doing two limbs at the same time. You're not doing a snare and a kick at the same time. You would alternate not consistently, but you're always alternating between your limbs to do whatever you want, basically. And usually, the most obvious thing that comes up is the sort of the way that it manifests itself is sort of gospel chops, where you do these sort of supremely amazing fills that can be like really fast and impressive. And so that's the basic idea. There's just like a whole bunch of ways to get there, and I'm just trying away, and I'll see if it works out. I mean, it's doing like a lot of beneficial things for me right now. So basically, I realized that my teacher in college kind of gave me the sort of the essential ingredients to do this. I just never really worked on it hard enough. And now I thought of this. This old school book that I, looked at the dates recently, that it's been around since the 30s, which is that, it's amazing to me that like it's still super relevant. It's this thing called Stick Control. I don't know if I should whip it out right now. Actually, I'll do that. Give me a second.
Whip it out, dude. Whip it out.
All right, we got Stick Control. Let me prop that up to the camera. Is it backwards? Okay.
No, it's forwards. We can see it.
Sweet. I can like scan like a page or two if you want to like put this up on some drive or whatever. It's like $15. It's not bad. So basically this thing is a snare drum exercise thing. So it's just got like one line of information and it alternates. It's just like there's no rhythm and it's just sticking. So I just took these patterns and flipped it around and replaced one of the limbs with my bass drum. And so it just it just solidified a lot of it. Actually, the most important thing is that oh dude, that's what you were doing. That's epic. Wow. Okay, so all the drummers who are watching, Anthony, if you do not own stick control, you're losing it, man.
That
We're
means a
disappointed in you,
fucking
'cause
saxophone player has stick control from the modern drummer.
That's epic, man.
Yeah.
So for the drummers that
I also have a
watching,
bunch
you
of,
take
like-
stick control. Yes.
I'm just gonna say I have a whole bunch of other like drum rudiment shit that I've printed out over the
Awesome,
years
man.
from different people and whatever.
Sweet.
For me, like rhythm is the most important thing. You know,
It's true.
So,
You owned a drum set. You know this.
oh
You know
no,
these
but it's
things.
not about. It's not about. I don't play drums. Like I'm not. It's not about that. It's just about
but
when I play saxophone or when I play keys or when I react to music, I'm thinking in terms of rhythm. You know, number one. Like
always,
so I was like, well, why don't I actually learn something about this? You know what I mean? Like, and maybe see
definitely.
see if I can adapt or whatever. But more just like, why don't I actually just try to learn something? You know. So anyway, so I haven't been doing it lately, but I have worked on it a little bit. So. But tell me your thing. I'm hijacking your concept here.
Oh no, it's cool. It's basically it's super simple. You just take anything that you see in stick control, and you can you can switch either one. I just decided to take the right is a hand and the left is a foot.
Right.
So it's just super simple. It's just the idea is that as I was going through this, I realized so quickly that I had weird weaknesses that like you don't, like these things that I think about when I'm playing the cipher where like whatever, John or Emin will play something and it's like a rhythm that I wouldn't come up with. And then I'm trying to play with it with the kick and I'm like, this is not working. Why isn't it working? And then I'm like, this is a weakness that I have right now. Try to remember this from when you're practicing. And I forget about it. Let's be honest.
Right.
But sort of going through these like made me realize that there are some sort of patterns in here that seem simple. It's just I haven't just didn't sit down and do those. So it just exposes a whole bunch of weaknesses. And at the same time, coming back to sort of gospel chops, it gives you language right away, doing this. Because you can see it in any, like the basic idea is that you do set patterns of, a set number of hits, and then you sort of play with that. That becomes your language, that you play with. So I find that like going through this is kind of like building blocks to that, because eventually you're going to touch these rhythms or like these patterns.
Combinations. These sequences.
You're going to get to these, but you get a head start with this. And at the same time, I don't know if this is pertinent for drummers to do this, but I think just in general, like when you're practicing things that are straight, like this is more of like a pop or like funk context, or hip hop. But like if you practice things straight, but you don't swing them, and then like work on either the swing or like how much you swing these are always things that you have to like, get back to. And then especially like this, like going kick snare and like swinging stuff, you quickly realize that, doing like a whole bunch of kicks and then a couple of snares in like swung 16th, sometimes it gets really weird. And then, you watch like, it's like trying stuff out like that then you realize when you watch like guys like Larnell Lewis or like Spot that are just, they make it look so easy.
Right.
That if you haven't gone down that road and worked on that, because like some people, sure, it can to a certain extent come naturally, but for the rest of us normies, you got to work on stuff like that, because if you don't go down that road, it's never going to be. You can't expect that like when you'll just play a pattern that you've never played before that it'll work out. So
this kind of
it's a pet project. Yes.
It kind of ties back into what we were talking about in terms of creativity and spontaneity, in the sense of like, if it were true that everything like that we would come up with things truly with no like it really comes out of nowhere, then there would be no way to practice, right? Because then you would have played those things, So the reality is we're playing, there's many different perspectives on what practice gives you and whatever, but part of it is kind of opening up the possibilities so there's less of a barrier between what you're conceiving in your head and what's being executed. What you're talking about, that playing and be like, oh my god, I can't play the pattern that I want to play. Like I hear this thing and I can't play it, so you got to go back and work on it. So in terms of getting back to the linear thing, so if could you boil it down to like maybe a single exercise for people to do at home or whatever?
Man, just take super simple. I could like scan this. I mean, I don't know if I should just like, whatever. We're musicians. We're all broke. So I'll scan the first page right here. That's what's happening.
It's by the way, it is a great book, and I don't think it's expensive.
Oh, it's like $15, man. It's super cool. There could even be like
mine
a
was
PDF
15. Yeah,
or something.
I bet that. Yeah, I bet there's a
the
PDF too. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Like you could spend your life on the first page, man. Like,
oh yeah. There's another book that I would love to touch on called The New Breed by Gary Chester, where it's just like a sort of rhythmic thing that you read, and it's based on a sort of independence idea. But I've spent my whole sort of young career, I guess, working on the first 8 pages, and there's like 50, but I never passed beyond that because it's all I needed in terms of like working on groups. Anyway, so this thing in stick control, I'll scan this page. Basically, you just take, let's say the left hand in this case, and you sub it out for a kick. So that's it. You just run this down.
So just for those who don't know, the book is basically a bunch of patterns. So let's say if I look at the very first one, quite simply is left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, back and forth. So what Chris is saying is you would swap out, let's say, the left for kick. So it'd be right hand, kick, right hand, kick, right hand, kick, right hand.
Exactly. And then what you can do is this is when it starts to build a little bit. You switch it up to the left hand, then you do left hand kick. So left snare kick, Yeah. Alternate between that, and then you can alternate between your hands. Like you can do right hand kick, left hand kick, and then you can that's how you start building up towards people who have huge vocabulary and who sort of flow between ideas like that. And so. That in a nutshell, and another basic idea, which is take all of the rudiments, as many that you can think of or have access to. I think I scanned, if I haven't, I could scan also I have this cool rudiment thing that you might already have. It's by Yamaha that is like most of the rudiments, if not all of them. And just playing the rudiments, instead of playing between your hands, you play between your feet. So in this case, we're describing a single stroke roll, but between your hand and your foot, basically, which is what I've also been working on, to be able to roll. Like Thomas Lang was a great clinician, touches on this often in terms of most drummers are super agile between their hands, but then when you start trying to do stuff between a hand and a foot, then you're like, it's gone out the window, and it's in nowhere close to what you can do between right and left hand. So just that mindset of being like, play single strokes, play double strokes, play paradiddles, play just with those 3 things. Like the paradiddles becomes like sub branches of like, there's like 5 or 6, whatever. Don't quote me on that. There's a few paradiddles. And there's like, then you get into like morphing the paradiddles. But just with that is sometimes it can be a lifetime of working on stuff. And then like what I'm figuring out is if I want to see if I can do that, and that will just allow me to like spew out what people consider gospel chops, which is basically that, it's just like linear playing. I mean, there are, you can, then you get into like, there's other things aside from linear playing, but that's what I'm exploring. It's just like coming from that angle, if it's another angle, if everybody's doing that, doing the same thing, but that's what I've been working on. Because I'm lucky enough to have a drum set in this little studio, and I can make some noise, and people are super cool around me. I'm very thankful for that.
Can you just so just to explain the connection between taking these exercises and splitting them up between your legs and feet, and how that becomes, or whether that is linear playing?
Sure. You mean like in terms the connection of how it's linear?
Yeah.
playing?
So people, I mean, like I kind of, well, I shouldn't say I know, but I think I understand what linear playing is and whatever. But you've talked about taking these exercises and splitting the legs, and like, would you say that then is linear playing, or like how does that become linear playing or
definitely,
whatever?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, linear playing is really just it's linear when you're not hitting two things at the same time. Basically, it's really just that. So it becomes complex in the sense that when me, like many other drummers, you do like these sort of traditional pop ideas that you sort of ingrain, that becomes ingrained in your playing, that when you try to do like this more of a jazz mindset of an idea, like linear playing, when you start going into really going into it, you realize that your body's out of whack because you don't, like, it doesn't fit with what you're trying to do.
Right.
Because you have like these weird mechanisms that are like
habits
working against you.
Habits. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yes. Here, I'll just redo. I'll resynthesize that for people who want to write that down. If you understood correctly what was happening with the stick control goings-ons, you do that with other rudiments, such as, in this case, we've already talked about the single stroke roll. You do that with the double stroke roll, so you do hand, hand, foot, foot. And then you can do that with paradiddles, as in hand, foot, hand, hand, foot, foot.
Yeah.
Good job, kids. Yeah, so that's like a lifetime of things to work out and patterns, and I feel like those are the building blocks of the sort of linear time playing, which is to me gospel chops. And I just wanted to talk about that because if there are guys who like work on gospel chops specifically, and my question was, I should talk to more drummers about this, is if their mindset was just like putting blocks on top of each other, which is like, I know this 4-note pattern and I know this 5-note pattern, and this is my favorite 6-note pattern or 3-note pattern, and I just string them together and improvise and change a few things here and there. But like, that's great. That's beautiful. And there's, many guys like, like young cats coming into the fold, like Renal, and guys who are just like super impressive to watch. My question to them is, have you guys thought about this of like, do rudiments and apply them with this mindset? And to me, it's like it's like the foundation of all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So something to check out for sure. For those
story, I'm sticking to
it. Linear playing is definitely something to check out.
It's on all the lips, and it's the hot thing all the kids are talking about.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna ask you some more. Actually, you know what? I know what I'm gonna. I know this is just like random jumping around, but fuck it.
Let's do it.
I'm not Larry King. Fuck it. I don't have any fucking things.
Who cares? One person is talking. I don't care.
What's that? Oh, I don't even know.
One person. It's not Mark.
But we're live on multiple platforms, so it's hard to tell. But so tell me about this photo.
Oh, nice. Nice. So that's my boy Mark Gravel on the left-hand side there.
Right.
So I went to college with him. Funny, outgoing dude who's a singer-songwriter. And I had been collaborating with him, like kind of playing in his band, working on, we recorded an album. And so he had like this, the guy to my right is stuff. Damn, blanking on his last name. Great violinist who does a lot of composing and arranging now. And so he played with us for a bit, and this was like a side gig where, what was the hookup? I think it was like, it was like Chris's aunt had started a choir at an elementary school in the West Island.
Okay.
And that was like the first or second year. I think we did it like twice. And it was super cool, man. It was like kids that it was, I think it's an English elementary school. Maybe it was French. But anyways, like the idea was that all the songs were mainly like French Canadian repertoires, like Félix Leclerc and stuff like that. So we were like the, house backing band for that. The girl was playing piano. She was there. Anyway, she worked at the school and held it down on piano.
Nice.
So that was like our little. I can't remember what the idea behind the costume is, but that was our little.
I don't give a shit for the music. I want to know what's up with these blue scarves. That's really what I want to know.
I can't remember why the blue scarves are epic, man. It was probably like a Félix Leclerc thing, like that old school. I guess that's maybe like the belt is maybe like a sort of take on the Aboriginal ceinture fléchée. I think that's like a thing like that.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly why there was that. I found that CD a couple of days ago. We were doing like some spring cleaning because we had nothing to do, and I looked at that CD in the exact same picture, and I was like, "Wow,
right,
that was a while ago."
All right, give me the context on this picture.
Hey-o, that's that tone bender, and I just can't see what the chart is.
Oh, I don't think I can zoom
know
in.
What the song is? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Wow, those jeans are terrible, bro. What are you wearing? Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. Wow,
I wasn't even asking about that, but hey, that's a good catch there.
Those are legit, though. Those are honestly jeans that I wore so much that they broke down like that. Like those are real. Those are worn. Those were worn. No, that's NSD album number 3 in the making.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right.
It's been in the making for like 6 years, man. It's not. Yeah, it's our running gag. We don't know if it's ever going to come out. We're still working on it.
But why is this chart so long? Oh my God.
That's fucking Raphaël Proulanglois, man. That's how he rolls. That's what he does, man. I mean, when you write a tune and you want little, when one bar is different in a section. And it makes it too complicated to have a box one.
I know. Yeah.
And you end up with stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the same time, like, I know all these songs by heart. Right. I knew all these songs by heart when I got to it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also kind of one of the common difficulties with like live band hip hop, if it's like highly arranged, is that if you're imitating like or not just hip hop, but particularly hip hop, because so many hip hop tunes, like, on the second verse, bar 5, break on 1, and then do a punch here, and you know what I mean? Like, but that's just in the original recording. It's just like a production thing, or it's just a scratch or something like that. But we want to imitate this as a live band. Well, now that means a whole other 32 bars of charting just to mark that one thing, So
thanks a lot.
But that's it. But I love that shit. Like when you have a live band do that, it's so powerful. It's amazing, and like part of the idea with Urban Science, and still is to kind of create those moments, but have them be improvised, and it's definitely nearly impossible when somebody is freestyling, but it still can happen that we kind of clue into the flow, and then it somehow we come together on something, or in some cases when people are doing pre-written verses and we know them, it works out. Anyway, so that's an interesting story behind your chart. Yeah. All right.
I just want to shout out Olivier Saint-Pierre and the people at Tonebender Studio. That's where that's happening.
Nice. I don't even know what I have here in terms of photos and stuff, so I'm just gonna keep closing things and see what comes.
It's a
right. Okay. Yeah. So tell me about this.
Oh, nice. That's the only. It's the one and only time I've played in New York City. We did this gig. I played with Patrick Lehman for like a year and a half or something like that. I can't remember exactly how long. And man, he booked himself some gigs New York. We drove ourselves down. We played that gig in New York, and then we played another couple of gigs. These weird, like, I'm not judging his booking. I would have booked the exact same gigs because I'm a terrible booker. But it's just like these weird gigs, like in northern Massachusetts. I can't remember the name of the town. One in like New Hampshire, I think. But it's
some gigs were cool and some were less cool than others. That's kind of so this.
Go for it. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say this is club. This is in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, dude. That's
and the name is Groove, right?
Yeah, it's like Club Groove or
because I have been here. I've seen shows here, but much later. I don't know do you know what year this would be or no idea?
This is like, maybe 4 years ago.
Really? Okay. Wow. Okay. Then maybe they just did a big renovation or something. Yeah,
this is before the 5. 5, maybe 6, because this is like before the project with Willis was formed. So
that would have been quite a while ago, even.
No, but I mean, like we made, like, Willis had his own, like, he had the Willis Pride project. Like, it's basically always been Willis's.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
solo career, if you will.
A new branding of the project. And
it was just like, it was Willis Pride and Half Nelson.
Yes.
And then we changed it back to Willis Pride. But it was like, this is a bit before Willis Pride and Half Nelson, which I think is like 2014 or 15.
Okay.
Let's say.
Right.
Go for that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just because I seem to recall that when I went to Groove, there was nothing in the background. Like, there wasn't a big thing saying Groove NYC. Yeah. I think it was just a black backdrop. And I went maybe, I want to say 3 years ago, max, kind of thing. Maybe 2 years ago. And so I have a question. Were there any, like, was there anything unusual about the stage, or was it just a flat stage as I see in this photo?
No, the drum is on a riser.
Yes. Okay. Oh, right. I see it here. Okay. But that's it, right? There's nothing else strange about it.
No, I think they put the backdrop to make us look and feel weird. Like, it wasn't there. But
it is a weird
that would have
backdrop.
been great.
I gotta
like,
say. They're Canadians. Put the backdrop on, man. Put it on. Put the fucking.
I do have the sound. I got a thing with the sound man, but I can tell it after. It was just funny.
Okay.
Anyways, his name. He just walks up to us and we're like, "Hey man, how's it going?" We're just excited to be there and playing. He's like, "Hey, cool, how's it going?" Then we introduce ourselves, and he's like, "Hi, my name is Clarence," and we're like, "What? Clarence?" He's like, "No, it's Clarence." We all just looked at each other like, "What just happened?
Is this for real?" Yeah.
Yeah, is this a thing? He's like, "Okay, man, you do you."
Clarence is Clarence.
Clarence, man.
Clarence. What was I going to ask about it? Groove. What I was going to ask was the technical aspects of playing in the States. Did you guys do this all properly, or I'm not trying to say anything that'll get you in trouble.
Patrick was on point, man.
Okay.
Visas and like everything. Yeah, we got pulled over at the border, and they like asked us questions. They searched the car. Yeah, it was a big deal. He did a great job, like on point, got visas and like working visas and stuff.
Nice.
Good job.
Okay, so yeah. So, but I mean, that's why that's probably, well, not the only reason why, but probably part of why you did those weird gigs, because you need to have a certain number in order to like get the visas and all that. So it's like, we're doing 3 weird ones because, these visas cost
some in there.
Exactly.
I remember he like hustled really hard to get a gig in New York and
right. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to move on to another photo. Talk about this. Well, we've talked about the commission a little bit, but do you want to talk about this one?
Is awesome, man.
And what's this? I forget the name of this venue right now.
Me neither. I'm blanking on what it's called.
I want to say like Cavern or whatever. Like it was called something like not Cavern, but it was something like shit. What was this place called?
Like it was fun, man. And there's like a weird little the backstage is like just to the right of the stage.
Okay.
And anyways, it's just like a sweet vibe in that place.
Yeah, I never played there. I saw a lot of people doing stuff there, but I never played there.
Yeah, it's cool. I felt like I was doing like a gig in like in like the '60s when the Beatles were coming up, like in Liverpool or like in London. I don't know, maybe in London, in some basement, some old school basement with years of people shooting the shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's just a fun gig with the commission that we put together. I'm sure there was another band that I'm not remembering who it was. Can't remember.
That's okay. I'm gonna.
Anyways, that was a fun gig.
I'm gonna move on to the next one, unless you have something particularly insightful.
No, but I'll get to it. It makes me think of something that I did want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
But it can be later. I can come back to it. It's just a thing that like, it could be for drummers, but I guess maybe a lot of people. I don't know if you guys talked about this with David of like hybrid setups and like, like samples or queuing samples and like drum machines or stuff like that.
No, get into it.
Just that, it kind of like it kind of threw me off that like Jeff Day Colombo.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know him, great drummer, part of the crew, Cypher. He contacted me like a couple of months ago, I think, on Instagram, and he like sent me a message. He's like, "Yo, man, can you check out this video and like tell me about his setup?" Because he was like with one of his boys, and he's like, "Yo, we don't get his setup." And I looked at the video, and I was like thrown because it was super simple. It was like literally the Cypher setup. It was like a drum set with the pad and like some mics. So I sent it back. I was like, am I missing something? Like, is there like a secret sauce that I'm not getting? It's like, I don't know, man. Is it like, where's the sound coming from and stuff like that? So I was just like, okay. So I sent him back a message. You know, he probably like, I think he answered and then forgot about it and never got back to me on, you know, more like deeper knowledge about what the setup. But yeah, just in terms of like drum machines, what exactly they are, how they work. And, you know, there's like a whole, I mean, it's not like a whole world, but just like figuring out like samples and like, you know, I highly recommend people to do at least a small amount of like research on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of tutorial videos on like what are bit rates, sample rates, different types of qualities. That's super important. Like if you are working on sounds and then you export them and you make them an MP3 and then they get like transformed again by someone else. Like, especially like, I don't know if we talked about this with Pass the Beat. If you do something that like, if somebody takes your thing that is a good quality, I'm not saying that people, I'm not calling anybody out, but just like to be aware of things of like compressing audio constantly sounds terrible. And so if you're doing this with sounds and then you're coming and you're putting them on a drum pad and then you're expecting it to be huge when you put it through a PA, that's not going to happen.
Well, it's weird because I remember Mark the Magnanimous telling me that he downloads all of his music from YouTube. He just takes videos and downloads them as MP3s. Definitely. Yeah. But maybe that's why he always sounds terrible when he plays. I'm not really sure.
Well, I think it's because he doesn't play enough Drake.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I agree that he should be playing more Drake. I definitely agree.
I just want a side note here. I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to watch this again and I'm going to put a Drake counter at the top and I'm going to play a drinking game with the amount of times that we say Drake and I'm going to get plastered.
You're going to get plastered in the first 5 minutes. And then
I should have had another drink and taken a sip every time we said that. But I'm not like, I've done that a whole bunch of times. Like I did that. I'm sure David does that whenever we're talking about like Cypher and like, hey man, can you get like samples from this tune and that tune? I think it's just, the main takeaway for me is just to remember that, or to know that like an MP3 is something that is compressed, and just to be aware of the fact that maybe like if you're not coming from something that's super high quality, like in this case, like a video clip, or someone put something up online on YouTube that's high quality, well, it's something that you should think about. If it's, if your end result is something that you want to sound high quality, this is something you have to think about, like in terms of individual sounds or, samples and stuff like that. It's not just like no great producer, drummer, or anyone just takes a shitty sound and like, oh, that's what it is. Like nobody does that.
Yeah.
People are like, people's ears are tuned to the fact that like, people are listening to this stream right now and they're like, yeah, the microphone sounds weird because it's going through a server and there's like stuff happening, but that it's a fact. We just have to be aware of these things, because when you want to take your project to the next level and you have like samples and a drum machine and stuff like that, and your sound bad, then, first of all, the sound man is not going to like you and he's not going to be on your side. That's something it's another thing that I wanted to talk about of like, to me, it's like part of the broader story of like, the broader angle of like how I'm interested in like the role of a producer. But to me, being a better human being and musician kind of has that in the sense of, if you know a little bit about everybody's job, well, then you're going to be a better musician. You're going to be a better human being, and you're going to get more out of what you want, because when you know how to talk to a sound man, like we've had this conversation many times, you and me, but when you know how to dialogue with someone, you know their universe, you know their language to a certain extent. Not everybody knows everything about others' crafts, but you get more out of what you get closer to where you want to be. As a singer, you need to know that, like all singers need to know that there's a limit of the amount of return that you can get, or horn players need to know that, or drummers need to know that there are certain elements of your drums, like cymbals, that destroy other people, or that ways of playing crush other people and their whole being on stage. You destroy them. Some people are not aware of these things, and that's a thing.
I think at the core, there's two things. One is just knowing the most you can know about other aspects of music making than specifically, I play drums and that's all I do. That's part of it. And then the other thing is in terms of live sound and, well, I don't think we have to talk about studio sound, because studio sound, somebody else is going to take care of it and it's going to be fine. You know what I mean? To a certain degree, within reason. But, live sound, there's a lot of considerations that you have to be aware of. I mean, it reminds me of, I don't think this is too terrible of a thing for me to talk about, but there was an incident. This is with Elijah, reharmonator, guitar player, with Urban Science and all this kind of thing. I think we were playing and like in the middle of the set, he turned his amp like really loud, and we were just like, holy shit. And like, I forget if we told him in the middle of the set or afterwards or what, but he was saying like, I couldn't hear myself. So I just wanted to, no, that's it. He was like, I was taking a solo and I wanted like more power during the solo or whatever. And it's like, well, you kind of got to trust that the sound man is going to take care of that. You can't be like changing the levels on, and then it's like, oh my God, now it's feeding through the front of house or whatever. You got to try, like you're part of your one little screw. It's like, oh, I wish this was faster. I'm just going to speed up the speed of this one cog. Well, that could fuck up the whole machine. You know what I mean? Exactly. So, the more you know about the different things, the better,
Definitely. That's my small moment of preaching, but I think
mine too.
To like on various levels and like to me it's super pertinent in terms of like studio, like of the studio mindset of like, bringing yourself to the table in terms of a musician, whether you're a beat maker, whether you're a singer, a composer, whatever. These things are all important for you to get the best out of, like, I guess the other person, or like, if let's say, I'll be like more concrete. If you're a singer and you're working with a musician that you're hiring or that you're, collaborating with, if you understand better their instrument, what they can do as a musician, you're for sure going to get more out of them. If you're
Absolutely.
A session player coming to a session and you haven't done a little bit of homework on the sound that you have to get for this session, you missed the ball.
Yeah.
And that works for live as well. I remember talking to Robin Chemtov, teacher at Concordia, great jazz pianist.
Yeah.
And he said how he didn't get a disco cover band gig because he showed up with a Casio keyboard and he crushed it. But the next guy had all the sounds.
Of course.
Man.
Yeah.
That's
you
why
can't do that.
That's why I love a lot of people in the Cypher entourage. Jami crushes that all the time. Like when we play, to me, like I'll never forget like the sound check when we were playing Pick Up the Phone by I think it's Pick Up the Phone by Travis Scott or Phone something. I can't remember the title.
I know which track you're talking about.
Yeah, that sound, it's like like a steel pan mixed with something. And even I'll cut myself off again. Even like that to me is something that I love working with people. Like if you're a singer working with a beat maker and you're like, hey, I want it to be like, and then you're giving like, this is a thing I hate with working sometimes with people when you get like these weird adjectives. Like I want it to be like grandiose.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything, like,
well,
tell someone that you want more reverb. You want the room to be bigger. I mean, like these to me are things that I get to a certain extent, but I've have these specific moments in my mind where people say things that you're like, I get it. You told me 4 times, but it doesn't mean anything. Try to find other words, and this is why I dig into like technical lingo and vocabulary to get more out of people and to like not control the situation, but to get faster to where I want to go, so to get, to work with a guy like Jean-Mi who's like, yo, we're covering this song, or like we're playing this, doing this thing at the Cypher, and you show up and it's like the exact sound.
Yeah.
It's just like it sets it across the finish line, which is what people want. And
I think it's. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I was while you were talking, I was thinking what I got to say, and then the minute I had a pause, jumped in and blank. This is the worst. Oh my god.
So
I suck. I'm the worst interviewer ever.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll finish up with like the drum machine thing.
Sure, go for it.
I mean, just in general, like the idea that. I guess like super basic. It's just basically a pad that picks up electricity that you're whacking on that will then generate a sound. There's different options. If you want this to have a brain with memory that you can have the sounds come out from there, and then you'll have variance whether you want to set, like velocity in terms of how hard you want to strike the pad, the response that you want to get. And then there's also the option of having like a brainless thing where your sounds are somewhere else. And this is more of like a MIDI controller where you're just hitting this and then it's sending a MIDI signal to either getting converted, going into your computer, going into like it could be a sound bank type thing, electronic drum machine or something that you want to trigger specific sounds from there. And also the thing that I think a lot of drummers in my generation should look into if they're down, like if you want to like send me a message and want some help with that, I'm super down to help people out. I discovered that triggers are the cheapest thing in the world to make. You should know this because piezo pickups, pickups are super cheap.
Yeah.
So what you do is you just take a XLR cable that is the right thing for a microphone, or it can be a jack depending on what goes into your drum machine. There's always trigger inputs. And so super basic, you take the piezo, you solder it to the cable, and then you just stick that piezo to your drum skin.
And that's it.
And you got yourself a trigger that costs like $8 instead of,
that's crazy.
If you want, it's like you commit it to that drum skin, but like on a bass drum, man, that's like a fucking 3-year investment instead of like $250. And it's super, efficient. You can't get 2 triggers out of it, but so that's like a cool thing that I think a lot of drummers don't know about that you could easily do and look into. So
and frankly, like buying a piezo is also like $20 or something. You know what I mean? So it's like
I saw some. I saw some on the internet. There was a website that I found. It was like $6 for a piezo with the like the lead cables already soldered.
Already soldered
like
in.
That's
crazy.
Amazing. And they even sold like foams if you wanted to buy like an adhesive foam and stuff like that. It was super nice for like $18. You had a decent setup with a small amount of. But there's a bit of construction involved, so I get that mindset of like just buy a trigger. But that that's a thing also, like setting triggers and like figuring out how they work and getting a response out of them. And just the idea that if drummers didn't know that a microphone can be a trigger, I've done that. I've done this various times. Next time I do the cypher in a year, check me out.
Oh God, it could be a long time.
I'll show you my microphone setup if I still do that. It's not that complicated. It's basically just like a signal that is picked up. Yeah. Coming back to what I was talking about earlier, I think it's like fundamental that now everyone in our day and age like needs to at least understand a little bit of the fact that what we're doing is always a mix between, I think probably always it's going to be, I was going to say that it's not always goes to digital, but now with like the boards, everything goes to digital. So what we're doing is electricity that gets amplified, then gets transformed into ones and zeros, and then comes back out as electricity, and then you hear it. So it's to me, it's not that it changes your way of playing, but I find that you either appreciate it more or you're like more aware of what's going on, and that can help you sort of get better like at, if you're a guitar player, you like find better pedals because you understand more of what like impedance is a thing as a guitar player and a bass player, and like understanding a little bit of electronics just so that how you got to run your pedal board, like pedal boards, and that if you change the orders, sound is shit. That's like a thing that you know, some people, sure, if you want to learn it on your own, I just feel that like if you understand already that a little bit of a little bit of electronics and like understanding a little bit, not straight up a circuit with resistance, but just like being aware of that, I feel guides you to a faster answer. You know, you're more efficient in your quest of better sound.
Yeah, well, I think knowing more aspects of the technical, what's going on behind the production of the sound is always helpful, you know, and just even on a basic level, you know, I don't know if you've been in situations like this, but I've definitely been in situations where I'm doing a sound check and I feel so bad for the people running, the technical people, the sound techs and stuff. Oh, yeah. Because I'm just man, this band has no idea what they're doing, and everybody is wasting the time of the techs and all this kind of thing. And it's like, man, you go in, you test your shit, you make sure your levels are okay, and you're done. That's it. You try one song maybe, and that's it. You know, like, it's not a rehearsal. It's not like I've had people like talking to the front of house guy about wanting more in the monitors, and I'm like, we got a separate monitor guy. He's just there, like, and they just introduced themselves to us, like, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, come on, man, like, come on,
like,
you know?
That is, I probably forgot to mention that, but like that is, that to me, like that's the more concrete of what I was talking about, of like learning these things of like general technology and technical aspects are stuff that allow you to look more pro, to be like that musician that shows up on time, like knows what's happening, knows when you step forward, check your mic, check your instrument, and then if you have a pertinent question, if something's going wrong, you can either help troubleshooting, push things along, and everybody respects you because you know what you're talking about, and you have an appropriate level of respect for what's going on and helping things be more efficient. You know, to me, that's like the goal of that I hope, that I wish for young musicians who want to look pro, you know, to not look all wide-eyed and be like, okay, should I play now? Shut up, we're checking this guy over here. Yeah. We need you to stop making noise. Stop
God. Please. Yeah. Well, man, I mean, I don't recall you ever doing this, but I've definitely seen it where drummers are playing at full volume while somebody is setting up drum mics. No, it's like, shut the fuck up while the guy sets the mics up. Like,
that's life experience. You know, I was at UQAM and I think it was Tim, I can't remember his last name, the sound engineer in the studio, and that was one of the cool things that I loved about the instrument class, that at the end of the semester your exam was like studio tracks, you know, so you're in the zone, give you a track, do it. And he was setting up the mics, and I was still placing like the basket of my snare, and it's like, not quite, still working on it. And he's placing the mic right next to it. And then I'm like placing it, whack it once, a little one, and then a nice ram shot when he was
my God.
Right there. And he looked up, and you did like, he's worked, like he's a professional, and B, he's in a like educational context. Yeah. You know, so he had the perfect tone, and like this stays with me. He looked up at me, very nice, but like in a sharp manner, like the word escapes me, the appropriate word, but he just looked at me. He's like, dude, don't ever do that again. And I stopped. I was like, it made me, like, it flooded me with the guilt of like realizing what just happened and how I disrespected him. And that is complete disregard and no respect for other people when you do that. But some people don't realize that. Yeah. They haven't been told by someone like, hey man, you are disrespecting everyone. You're disrespecting the person who's working right now. You're making everyone's life, you know, almost hell, because you're destroying people's ears. And that means that like in 4 hours time, we will have no patience because you took all of it at that point. Yeah. All of our energy.
So on a related, here's a question that I always like learning about, and it's going to be delicate to get into this on a live stream or whatever, but have there been some notable moments in your life where you got shit from somebody? I'm talking about it on a musical level, obviously, and what were the lessons that you learned as a result of that? Was it good overall? Was it bad overall? You know, what are some of those experiences?
There's one that I like talking about. I subbed Ronnie. Shout out to Ronnie D Drum. I subbed him when he was still playing with Michel Pagliaro. I subbed out for one gig, and like in my mind, I don't know if this is I mean, I could be out of my depths here, but I kind of antiquate it to like the vibe of playing with a James Brown in the sense that he was so like intense and fiery on stage that I had heard stories of being even way worse with drummers.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, I actually played hockey with a guy who played drums with him who I had been told prior to meeting him that he was like, he did like 2 gigs and he left and he was like, I can't take this shit anymore. And like, he was like at his wit's end with the whole situation because he was just on him and riding him. So I hear these things and like, you know, I have like my neighbor who that's like, I'm coming back to like what I was talking about with Rodney with this was my other context where like I was proud that he accepted to hire me without knowing that like he knew me when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Because he went out with my neighbor for years and like he saw me as a kid. He was like, his mind was blown when he was like, you're that kid. Well, like he remembered my brother because my brother was a little shit, but his mind was blown. So anyways, we're on stage and we're playing and he's like singing like one of his tunes from the 60s. And it's like, you know, this folk easygoing tune, you know, like do anything that you want to do. It's like super lovey-dovey. And he's turning around in between lines. And like, so I'll do like this way. So turns around. He's like, away, Corlius. And he's like fucking yelling at me. And I didn't know because I was wailing as hard as I could. Like I have rarely been that tired. Like he asked me to do a drum solo like midway through the second set. And it lasted for what I feel like, maybe it was longer, but it felt like it was 16 bars. Like it felt like I was just like, I did a couple of rolls and I was like, my arms are spaghettis. I can't do this right now. If Ronnie hears this, he'll probably laugh his ass off. But yeah, so I was just like, how is this possible to like give this amount of sound and output to this human being? I was like, how do people do this? And so he was just like on people and just like amazing.
He was riding your ass all night long. He was just like giving you shit.
Oh,
you
dude.
know?
Oh yeah, man. It just, and like, I'm sure it could be worse it was worse for others, but it just like, it slapped me in the face in the sense of like, yeah, you know, anyone can be in that situation with anyone in any point in time.
So,
where you're like,
so what exactly?
You think you have a shot, but
Yeah.
it's not there.
So what exactly did he want from you, and what did you take out of the experience?
So he wanted like the power of a rock drummer. That's what he wants. Like
more
that
volume,
80s
more power.
He wanted Tommy Lee, and I was not giving it. That's what he wanted. Literally, that's what he wanted. You know.
Yeah.
And but what I took out of it was just like the fire of, you know, showing up and just fucking playing like your life depends on it. Like I was already I was aware of that, but it's just like it felt like to me, it felt like I had played, you know, I'd shared the stage with like a James Brown or like a Buddy Rich who had like that personality. Sometimes it's for better or for worse, you know, it's not always positive, but to me it was like, whoa, okay, you got to take this shit seriously and you got to bring it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to intellectually understand that you need to bring energy to a show. It's another thing to be playing live in front of thousands of people and have the band leader fucking cursing you out in between every line, you know, just switching back and forth.
Yeah, the level of inadequacy that you feel is just, but it's like those things where, you know, I've told you this a couple of times where I, you know, years ago, however many, I reached a point where, you know, like Freddie touched on this. I'm not at a point where I want to call others out, but I am super at ease with letting people know, like, you know, people within the cipher of like, let me know if there are things that you don't like or that make you feel uncomfortable or that put you in a weird musical situation or something like that. I could take it. I'm at a point where I'm realistic. I have faults. I'm not the best drummer, or sometimes I don't listen enough, whatever. I'm aware of a lot of things. There are a lot of things that elude me, like many, but I feel like I can take it. And that was one of the cases that if I wasn't already there, that made me, you know, it's like I feel like I hadn't gotten enough of that in college and in wherever, in university, where like someone whipped me into shape.
Right.
Sometimes like I feel like but maybe I wasn't ready for that. But I feel like
there's
that's a whole.
There's a lot of things we can get into there. I mean, I feel like as a band leader, that's one of my things that I don't know how to, or I shouldn't say don't know how to do well, that I have difficulty doing, in the sense of I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. There's that to a certain degree, but you're not necessarily hurting anybody's feelings if you're just like telling them what you want. It's not about feelings. It's about like, I want this. Can you do this? Or can you work on this? Or can, whatever, that kind of thing. And it's much better. I mean, what I have learned over time, it's much better to let people know what you want than to just be like, I'm not going to work with this guy and I'm not going to tell him why. And they'll just be like, what the fuck happened? And that's,
I equate that to ghosting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
unless it's always these are all like levels, it's not like straight up you're cutting someone out of your musical life. It's just, let's say, if you're sort of in a project or something like that, and then you talk about doing things and then it just fizzles out, but the people have not spoken why it did. I find that kind of sad, I find it just cool. I'm at a point where, if someone doesn't like what I'm doing, like your example, like, Greg Noel reached out to me for, recording a drum track for him. This was like a year ago or something. Okay. And, so he had like an idea for, like, he had like a programmed drum thing. And so I tried a thing out and he's like, oh, it's kind of cool. And then we like sort of going towards a thing. And this was like not physically together, like we were going back and forth online.
Right. Yeah.
And so I sent him another thing. And then after the other one, he got back to me. He's like, hey, you know what? It's like, it's not really working out. It's not going where I want it to go.
Right.
So I'm gonna leave it at that and I'll go my own way. And I was not expecting money at that point. I felt that it was like a sort of, a pitch almost.
Yeah, artist selling for helping out an artist, and it's just like whatever,
Yeah, no, that's it. I felt like I was pitching my services, and I didn't get the contract, but I found it super
that's how you felt.
Like stand up. I found it stand up on his part that he was like, no, I want to compensate you for your time.
Right.
That being said, like that's what I was talking about in terms of like being upfront in that, like I don't know if it's too specific, but he told me up front, and then no hard feelings, man. We're super happy to see each other.
Yeah.
And if I have something to send his way, or if he does, I know that there's no. Anyways, I feel there's nothing awkward, or everything was clear and said, and that's it. It's always an ideal case. It never.
Yeah,
and sometimes, go.
I was just going to say, I agree with that, and I think that you're like disappearing off the side there. It's just funny because you're rotating your chair. I get amused. I am amused easily, but it's. I think certain people. I think I am a person who does not enjoy conflict, interpersonal conflict. And so when it comes to like, telling somebody that I don't like something or whatever, I'm so like, oh God, I don't, but it's like at the end of the day, you might actually be resolving the conflict by telling them, I don't like this. Just saying you don't like it. It's also, it's not like your drumming is shit. It's like, I don't like this. There's also the way that you phrase it, which I think is important and that we all have to learn. But, anyway, I am still learning a lot in this domain of how to like communicate clearly and all this. But I agree with 100%. I agree that we have to tell people like, this is how I feel, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and if we have to part ways, that's okay. So we've been on for a while now. I think we're kind of. I'm running out of questions. I'm running out of stuff to ask. Are there any last things that you'd like to get into? I mean, I'm looking through the stuff here, and we don't really need to get into. I'm just looking. I had some videos and stuff like that, but honestly, I feel like we've covered so much.
Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares.
Well, we've covered so
honest.
much
That's what I'm
ground,
saying.
you know. We've covered so much ground with all this.
We're always coming back to Mark. He
I
doesn't
know.
even need to be on next week. We've covered all of his things. He likes Drake. Nobody cares about anything.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
His main influence is Drake.
Yeah,
should
for
say.
sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also true that Drake's main influence is Mark. That's true. That's true too. But anyway,
I thought Drake's main influence was Drake.
that may be true. I'm not even sure. He is a true innovator who has never stolen from anybody. But I think I'm pretty much done. I mean, is there any particular thing you'd like to get into before we sign off here?
No, I mean, I'd like other things, but it's just like it's stuff that like eventually if drummers ask the question, I'm down. But at another place and time, man, there'll be more for stuff like that. I think we've covered things. Keep learning about shit to sound more pro, man. That's all I gotta say.
That's the keep learning about shit. Keep learning about shit.
Do stuff and things.
It is a never ending. Oh my God, Mark is still fucking watching the stream.
Still there?
What the hell, Mark?
He's probably like he just left his phone on and just passed out. Or he's like watching something else because it's like it's on mute in the background somewhere. That's where we deserve to be.
It's true. That is where we deserve to be. But I think that's pretty much, unless Mark has some crazy question to ask, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, Chris, it's been a pleasure having you, learning about the different projects that you work on and the different skill sets in terms of like live music and DIY and all this. And of course, if you want, are you set up for doing lessons at home and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure, man.
I mean, like over Zoom or Skype or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to hit up Chris for some lessons, definitely contact him. I believe his Instagram is, I got to point this way. On there, Lepp-Forest. It's right over there.
Link in bio.
Link in bio. Yeah, exactly.
There's no link in my bio.
No, there's no link in bio. But check it out. And
but also, I'll do my promo of like fucking beats, drums, recording, anything. Yeah, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. Next week we are interviewing Mark the DJ Magnanimous, talking about stuff. Talking about all kinds of stuff. And Mark asked, "What's Chris's favorite part of the Bill Burr Philly incident?" We'll end on that. But and then next month we're going to have a bunch more interviews with urban science people and all kinds of interesting things. So actually, I'll just mention this on the stream right now. Somebody I've been talking to lately is Sergey. For those who don't know, Sergey was a bass player that was in Montreal for not that long, maybe a year or two, something like that. But he quickly became part of the family. And Sergey has been stuck on a cruise ship for like the last...
Still there?
Yeah. It's been one of the cruise ships that has been in isolation. I messaged the urban science people internally about this, but he is still on the cruise ship, which the last time we spoke, they were docked in the Philippines, and they were basically getting some of the workers and stuff from the Philippines, getting them off on shore there. And he's trying to figure out his whole situation. I'm hoping to get him on the live stream, but right now he doesn't even know what time zone he's going to be in, like, tomorrow or whatever. But he definitely will have some very interesting insights into this whole situation, as well as musically, of course. Great bass player. That's pretty much it. Check out the Pass the Beat. Check out the YouTube archives. Chris, thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, the link in the bio, which is there.
It's over there.
It's over there.
It's down the street.
Down the street. Take a left, and then the second red. So, Chris, do you have a favorite part of the Bill Burr Philly incident?
I mean, it's just bits of like, there's one lady that he picks out. I don't even know if she has kids, but he like wants her child to die. He hopes her child to die. He makes fun of there's just like little things that I'm thinking of now of like pointing out that like I think I didn't know before he pointed out the fact that they have a statue of a fictional character. Like that blew my mind. I'd never thought about that before. These beautiful things about Philadelphia and how,
Yeah. So if you don't know, there's a great Bill Burr dealing with a heckler video. If you Google Bill Burr Philly, you'll find it. A bunch of us are big fans of a lot of things, but definitely comedians dealing with hecklers. That's definitely one of my favorite things. It's it can go bad, it can go great, it's a whole thing. Anyway, that's a whole other subject. But thank you again, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna close up this stream over here. Just give me a second. So yeah, check us out next week, Mark the Magnanimous, and next month we'll have a bunch of other wonderful artists with us for the rest of the month. All right, have a good night, y'all.
Yeah,
Peace.
man. Next week. Peace.